We are back with episode 3 of season 4 of We Do a Little Pod. And before we jump in, I want to highlight some big news we announced last week. Season 4 is officially powered by Arbitrum, and our content is now redistributed across Rug Radio and Decrypt's platforms. Annie and I have been massive fans of Arbitrum since they launched, and both of us have invested in Offchain Labs Series B back in 2021. This is a full circle moment for us, and we couldn't be happier to partner with Arbitrum for this season. If you've never felt the frictionless transactions at lightning speeds on the world's most decentralized L2, what are you waiting for? Head on over to portal.arbitrum.io to check out their growing ecosystem where you can explore 600 plus apps and even participate in missions to earn points. Without further ado, let's dive into this week's episode. In this week's episode, we sit down with Natasha Chomko, aka Postwook. Postwook is a Los Angeles-based digital artist focused on cooking up some of the most visually pleasing and nostalgia-provoking surreal landscape collage art. We dive into Postwook's origin story, training like an athlete as an artist, diversifying income streams, beating addiction, dealing with the ebbs and flows of being a full-time artist in a volatile space, and so much more. As always, this podcast is for entertainment purposes only and should not be relied upon for investment decisions. Andy, Dees, and guests may be invested in companies or tokens talked about on this podcast.
This is Andy.
Yeah, I'm Dees.
All right, GM, we're back again with another episode of We Do a Little Pod. We are here still in New York, snowy New York day. Thankful that you guys were able to make it here. We're here with our artist friend, Postwook. She is known for her, I don't even want to, let me botch this introduction. So I was going to say known for your like trippy psychedelic landscapes that make my head spin.
There you go. That's perfect.
Because I just was looking at the piece you put out on Twitter today with the black and white sky, and it was like, I'm not on mushrooms right now, but it was moving. So anyway, I want to thank you for coming here. I know you traveled all the way out from LA to New York because I gave you a heads up we were going to be here. And then it just so happened that I picked the 1 week that it was going to snow and be a pain to commute. So thankful that you still made it out here and happy to vibe with you. How are you doing?
Good. Yeah, it's no problem. In LA, we literally have like 737s that like, like the 3 rows of plane people that it's fine. So it's like getting
nonstop to New York.
Yeah, nonstop, like big international type of plane, like no problems. I did wake up at 2:30 in the morning yesterday, Pacific time. So 5:30 a.m. Eastern.
Well, if it makes you feel better, that's also when I woke up yesterday. Just it was Eastern time, not like 5:30 Eastern time is when I woke up.
So, when you travel, are you always on Pacific time in your head?
Well, I'm an early morning person anyway. So like Pacific time for me, like I wake up at 5:30 Pacific every day. Okay. So it doesn't really matter if so that's like 8:30 Eastern. So it's like I kind of like make do anyway. Because Andrew, Mr. Postwook, he works on Eastern time, so it's just like easy. I actually wake up before he does, but like it's just easier if we're both like up in the morning and then we go to bed at the same time. But I went to bed at 7 p.m. on Monday night. Like the sun went down and I was like in bed with my melatonin.
And that's 7 p.m.
like Pacific. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. To be able to get
up at 2.
Up at 2. I was still like I felt like jet lagged.
Yeah, I feel like it's one of those things where if you wake up at 2:30 in the morning, it doesn't matter how much sleep you had the night before. Like you don't feel good because your body's like, what the fuck's going on?
Oh my God, there was no one on the road. Like I didn't have to, like, this is going to sound bad, but on my street, I have to make a left-hand turn if I want to like go south. And I just didn't even, like I stopped for like a minute and I was like, there's no one fucking here. I just went because there was no one on the road. Like I didn't see a single car until I hit the highway. Like in my
and that's rare in LA.
Yeah. In my neighborhood, there were no cars. None. Like it was actually beautiful.
Have you always been a morning person?
Always. I like as a kid, I had this friend growing up and her dad was a contractor. So he bought this little house and just made it into this like big house because he was like, this is a personal project and just had like a lot of fun. So we always did like sleepovers at her house because it was just massive and she had all the space. And I would wake up and be so bored because they were all not morning people. And I lived across the street, so I would just walk home.
Just leave.
And I would just leave. Yeah, it'd be like 7 a.m. and I would just leave. Or I would like start crying or something because I would be like so bored. I didn't know what to do. Yeah, I've been like a painfully morning person my whole life.
I feel like the morning people we know are some of the most productive people, though.
Yeah, I feel like it definitely like it was a learned thing for me to be a morning person. I was not always like for most of my life, even like adult life, I was like a wake up at like 10:30 in the morning person.
Yeah,
because I didn't really have like I don't know. I've never after my first couple of years out of school, I haven't had super serious jobs where like I'm working, remote for a crypto company. It's like I can kind of work whenever the fuck I want. And so like I would never set an alarm. I've always been like really anti-alarm. And so like I hate waking up to alarms. And so I just don't like I never feel good if I'm like forced to get up.
I have a suggestion.
Mm-hmm.
I have an alarm, but it's a sunrise alarm. So it turns it's off and then it goes from red to orange to
like
yellow to white, and then it has very soft birds chirping.
Oh, that's cool.
So I don't, because I'm with you. Like my fire alarm went off at my hotel last night at 4 a.m. and it was just like cortisol level up, like fucking spiked, fight or flight, kicked in. I don't like that feeling. Yeah. And I feel like that's what like noise alarms do. And this alarm was literally made for people so they don't have that problem.
That's cool.
If and when I have children, they will all only have those. They will not know the fucking annoying ass alarm.
Yeah.
The nuclear bomb alarm that goes off on the iPhone, like beep,
so
like holy shit, I'm gonna die.
I'm lucky. Like, so do you sleep well at night?
Very.
So that's where I'm lucky is I like generally also don't need an alarm because like when I lay down in bed, my head hits the pillow and then I go to sleep and I sleep for 8 hours and then I wake up.
Yeah.
And so like for the most part, I can just kind of structure my sleep around like, oh, I need to be up at 8. I'll be in bed by midnight because that is like not an issue.
I'm naturally like that.
Yeah.
So like if I don't set an alarm, I'll wake up. Like me sleeping in is like 7:30.
Yeah, I can't sleep in anymore. Sleeping in for me is like if I'm not feeling well, maybe 8:30, 9 o'clock.
Yep.
But if I feel fine, and I try to sleep in, it's like 7:30, 8 o'clock.
It's just not worth it after a certain point because it's like you want to be on a routine all the time. And I'm not talking like get up and go do things, but your body's on a routine.
Yeah.
You should eat around the same time every day, like everything else you do, exercise. And it's just like, I think that when you get into this routine of like Monday through Friday, I do this. And then like Saturday, Sunday, I just fuck all to the wind. It's like not good for your body.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, it's funny. Like since I became a morning person, basically when Allie and I were in Europe for 2 months, like a year and a half ago, and we were like kind of working New York hours. But so when I came back, I just like never really adjusted my sleep schedule.
Yeah.
And I just like let myself wake up at 6 a.m. every day. And I was like, oh, I kind of like this. Like, this isn't bad. And so I just like stuck with it. And now like on the weekends, I still go to the gym at like 8 in the morning, even if we were out drinking the night before. And Allie's like, how the fuck are you doing that? I'm like, I don't know. It's just like, I like it now. I don't want to stop doing it. But are you normally a morning gym person? Or like,
always.
Is that part of your morning routine?
7 to 9 a.m. That's when I'm there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that like, is the gym dead that early?
No.
7? Or is it
No,
just a bunch
pretty
of...
crowded at that
It's
time.
not dead. My people are there. That's kind of how I put it. Like there are some people who go to the gym I swear they get there at 6 a.m. and they leave at 7:30. So they're in the locker room when I'm getting into the gym. They're leaving. They're like blow drying their hair because they need to get to the gym at 6 so they can get out by like 7:45 so they can get their kids to school by 8. So then they can get to work by 9. And I don't know who these people are, but I salute them because
they're superheroes.
Superheroes. Like I don't know how they do that. And it's like I'm never there that early, but I see them all and then it dies down after like 7:30. So from like 7 to 9, it's like really not that crowded. And it's always the same people, which is nice. You like build rapport.
Yeah. I'm very sporadic with what time I go to the gym. Which is kind of crazy.
Yes.
But I think part of it for me is like, especially right now, my like routine is like extremely high intensity, but not that long. So like I'm working out for like 45 minutes to an hour a day, every day. And it's like, for those 45 minutes to an hour, I am pushing myself very hard, but I'm like not really taking long rests. I like don't need a lot of time. And so like, I kind of just have to be like in the right headspace of like, I'm going to go kick my ass really hard for like 45 minutes. And sometimes I wake up and I'm like, I'm just not ready to do that right now. Like today's not going to be the day for that. And if I go, I know I'm going to have a bad workout. And so I'll wait and I'll have lunch. I'll get some food in me and then I'll go. Cause I also don't eat in the morning. And so like, if I go to the gym in the morning, I go to the gym fasted.
Wow. I couldn't do that.
Yeah, I'm weird. I don't know.
No, I mean, men can do that. Women shouldn't.
Yeah.
Honestly, because of just like the hormonal imbalances and stuff. It's like you don't want your blood sugar to like go way too low if you're a woman, because then everything goes out of whack.
Do you feel like being consistent in the gym helps you be consistent as an artist and like creator, putting out work and creating?
Oh my God, yeah. I, as an artist, feel like I train like an athlete, even though I'm not training for anything. Like I artistically train like an athlete. Like I condition myself the way that an athlete would for like a big race or something. Like I'm very specific and intentional about like everything that I do and every day that I do it. So like I every day have like a segmented like thing that I'll do. So like on Mondays, I just kind of like let myself make whatever I want. On Tuesdays, I like cut out images that I've taken. On Wednesday, I like animate something. On Thursday, I do something new that's hard, which is annoying, but it's fun because it like helps me learn something new. And like on Friday, I usually don't really work because I'm usually traveling, to be honest. So it's like I get to regiment like what I do, and then I work out in the morning so I can just like get right into it when I'm done. Because like even by the end of my workout, it's like the thoughts start to creep in of like, oh, I have this email I need to send, I have this I need to do, and it's like I don't like to have that. So it's like I like to get there so early that I'm like, I don't know what's happening right now. Like I'm just here, and then all that stuff will seep in later. But I feel like being an athlete, because I swam competitively for most of my life, which is why I'm so into the gym. Being an athlete to me is the same as being an artist, in the sense that like you have to just be consistent, do something over and over again, strive for getting better. You're never going to reach perfection, but get as close as you can, because like that's how you develop like what works for you. And like at least with swimming, without getting too technical in it, every swimmer has a slightly different gait. They have like a slightly different technique that like works for them. Like everyone knows Michael Phelps, and he is kind of a freak of nature in the sense that like his arms are longer than his legs. So he has like this really long wingspan, and it allows him to have a tempo that's different than other swimmers. So I feel like if you get into that groove as an artist of like knowing what like your tempo is, it makes it a little bit easier to kind of like figure out like what works. For some people, what I just said wouldn't work. They'd be like, fuck that, there's no way. Where for me it works, you know? And like I know other artists for that works for them. But it's like just about figuring out like what that tempo is for you, you know?
It's interesting you say that. Kind of going back to your Thursdays when you're picking something hard to do, what is that normally like? Could that be anything from using a new tool to figure out how to make a new piece, whether it's 3D or animated, whatever? Mm-hmm. Or is that also like, you know, setting up a new wallet on a new chain and like forcing yourself to try something new that maybe isn't like directly related to the artistic output, but also allows you to maybe, you know, learn more about places you could create art and mint it, or, you know, God forbid, be a degen somewhere.
God forbid.
Curious how you like pick like, or on, I guess too, on Thursdays, are you just going into it like, here's a bunch of things I want to do that I haven't tried yet, I'm going to pick one? Or is it much more like, you know what you're going to try for the next month?
I have a list of things and I just pick one from the list.
Yeah.
Just because like I'm going to add that to the list now though, because that's a good idea. I like that. I think that's good, because I don't want to create art every day. That's the thing. It's like, I know it's a hot take because there's all these like engagement farming tweets out there that are like, create art every day. And it's like, that's awesome if that works for you. But it's like that tempo doesn't work for me, right? Like the tempo that works for me is like a few times a week, maybe 4 to 5 times a week, but not 6, right? And it's just like there are days where I don't really like want to do something crazy, and that would actually be like a good thing to force myself to do, because I think that like then I would put myself in a position where like I'm working on something that's like challenging, but it would still be like related, but maybe not like directly, right?
I feel like
it can be helpful in very different ways of like affecting your perspective of like, oh, this is how the people who are doing these things maybe are thinking or feeling, or what they're doing, or things like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Forcing yourself to like try to learn about everything in our crypto ecosystem is a pain in the ass. Like I have that challenge too sometimes, where I'm like blowing off using this new L1 because it's a bunch of buzzwords that I don't really understand, or I'm blowing off this new platform because I don't understand how their like, floor protocol works. I don't understand how their NFT perps works, whatever. But when I force myself to use it, it's normally like within a half hour. It's like, oh, holy shit. Like, it's not that bad. Or like some of it is like, oh, this is actually good. Like, I used it and this is way better than I thought it was. And maybe the buzzwords don't mean exactly what I thought they meant. I feel like for me in this space, I can't read a lot about things. Like when I read a lot about it, it's just this like abstract word soup in my head. But then when I sit down and use it, I'm like, oh, okay, like this makes sense.
You're an experiential learner.
Like when I go to the docs and I'm just reading the docs, and there's a lot of good things that have a lot of good docs, but like I'm not a docs visualizer. Like the only thing that I really can care about in the docs is like the tokenomics. I'm like, let me
show me the pie chart.
Show me the pie chart. Show me what's the unlock schedule, and like, okay, I'm out of the docs. Like the rest of it is God. But it is important to like push yourself, both not even artistically, but just like technologically. Like AI tools is another one where it's like, I haven't been trying, the right AI tools. I get stuck with Midjourney. I get stuck with ChatGPT. I don't really force myself out of there. But then I'm on Twitter and I read something and it's like, oh, holy shit. Like I could be using that AI tool for my note taking. I could be using something for the podcast notes. Like, that type of stuff. So trying to force myself. And I feel like as a creator, the AI tooling is just like crazy and it just keeps getting more and more big.
Well, there's a website now that's like you like add an image to it and it like makes it into a video.
Yeah. Runway.
Yeah. That's on my list. That's one of the Thursday
You'll
activities.
enjoy it.
Because I've used it a little bit, but like I want to make like more stuff with it. I think like it needs to iterate a few times. It needs to have like a few more versions of like improvement on it. But at the moment it's cool just because like I feel like AI personally is like a tool for creativity, and like that's how I like to use it. So it's like I want to use it as like, okay, I want this individual element to like rotate, but it's a photo and I don't want to necessarily sculpt it in 3D. Like, is that something that I could do with like Runway, right? And it's like, it sometimes works. It kind of has a mind of its own. I've like messed around with it a little bit and it's like,
yeah,
what are you doing,
I
Runway?
look at what Shakai puts out and I'm like,
shout out Shakai.
this
it's
is
so cool.
Fucking insane. And I'm like, let me buy a Runway subscription. And then I'm in Runway and I'm just 3 hours later, all my stuff looks like shit.
You're like, is he using the same thing that I'm using?
No,
Right? Like, that's what I'm thinking. And then I'm like DMing him. I'm like, what's your process? I'm like, okay, like theoretically, say that you got like 5 pictures that you made and you want to blend those together, looping from piece to piece. Like, what are you doing? And then he's like talking about how he brings it into Adobe Premiere or some video editing software and he cuts it and he makes his own like, output based off of some of the outputs he gets, and then the music he does on top of it. And I'm like, that's making a lot more sense because what I was getting was not close to that. And
see, that's what that's why I think that like AI as a tool is like what's helpful, right? Because it's just like the more that you can like use it as like a baseline for something, the better, right? It's like if you like are making a cake and you're like, okay, this is a deconstructed cake. It's got like eggs and sugar. Do you want to eat it? You'd be like, no. Like, you need to like do something with it,
Well, it's been fun like watching Andy. I feel like you use ChatGPT to code random things all the time.
Yeah.
And like he's making like extensions for us to do fantasy sports. And it's like, how'd you do it? And he's just like, just used AI.
Yeah, I use ChatGPT to teach me a lot of things.
Yeah.
So like in After Effects, like a lot of the things that I want, like on Wednesdays, right, when I'm doing like this animation that's like all in After Effects, and there will be days where I'm like, I don't know what I want to do. But I want to do this. I want to learn how to do this thing in After Effects. I don't know how to do it. Okay. I'm going to go into ChatGPT and be like, I want to achieve XYZ. Teach me how to do this. And sometimes the steps it gives me are too big. So I'm like, okay, break down step 5. Make it smaller. And I've learned so many cool things that way. And now because I've learned that, because I've used it as a tool, now I know it. Right? So it's like, now I can just do it. And I'm like, oh, this is really cool. Because I hate YouTube videos. I don't know why. I'm like not the kind of person that just wants to like sit through a YouTube video of someone doing something they know how to do.
30 to 60
I would say
minutes.
I'm actually incapable of sitting through those
Yeah,
videos.
yeah. I can't do it.
I cannot do it. I'll like turn it on and then I'll be like, fuck, we're 15 minutes in and I've been on my phone for 10 minutes.
Yeah, I can't do it.
I
So
haven't been following along for any of this.
no, I hate it. So I like ChatGPT because I feel like I'm on like support with like an agent, like a chat agent,
Yeah.
and they can like respond back and like help me with like my individual problem. And I've learned like so many cool things from that.
Yeah, and I
which
feel
is
like
great.
there's such a learned skill there of even learning, like you were saying, how to prompt back and forth with it, where like you can ask it a question and it cannot answer your question, but if you know what you're doing, you could be like, no, that's not actually what I meant. Like, here's what you need to understand. And like, if you have just like put in the hours to learn that kind of stuff, it's way more powerful than if you're just like opening ChatGPT and typing like, answer this question for me.
It's actually ChatGPT and asking it specific questions has made me a more direct person in my life. To be honest, like, because now I ask such specific questions
Yeah.
that like I get the exact answer that I need. Because I'm just like, no, I'm not just gonna like sit here and like beat around the bush. Like, I want to know this, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, please explain the terms and conditions that you want me to sign.
I also one time I've put like tweets through ChatGPT of like, what does this say? Because I don't want to read it.
Oh,
Like,
like
long
tweet.
tweets.
Oh, like a summary.
Like a summary. I'm like,
yeah,
give
yeah.
me like a 10-word summary of what this is.
So one of my, honestly, I think my favorite application of AI so far, and I use AI probably daily, but like, you know, minimal shit, like little things. I use Arc browser.
What's that?
It's like a new browser. It's, you know, it's a web browser. It's just a nice web browser. But it's new and they're like iterating a lot very quickly on like the product itself and trying to kind of reimagine what things would you want or not want. And they release like a few very small AI features for it. And so they have one which is cool, which is like in the search bar, if you don't type a URL and you instead just like type a prompt, it will prompt ChatGPT and it'll answer it for you. But which is like nice, but I can just go to ChatGPT and ask.
Okay, low key though, ChatGPT is getting stupider. Have you noticed this? Sometimes
not
I ask it
necessarily.
questions and I'm like
Yeah.
what?
Like, what
the
type of
fuck is
question?
this? I don't know. My phone's over there.
Okay.
Just
I-
like, I don't know. I'll ask it like, you know, like, how do I, or like, what is this divisible by this or something? And it just like doesn't give me the right answer. And I'm like,
I haven't had that. But the one thing that it has, that Arc has, which like this alone now would be very hard for me to go to another browser, is if you hover over a link, like you're going to click it, it will in the background open up the page, have ChatGPT read it and give you a like TLDR of what you were going to click. So like if someone posts an article, you know, unless I'm really interested in the article, but if I'm kind of interested in what it has to say, I'll just hover over it and it'll give you like 5 quick bullet points of like, this is what it says, this is what it's like, what it's about, whatever. And like those little things to me are super, super cool and really helpful. Like little things that just kind of speed up your day-to-day life or make things easier.
The one that I've been using the most is Nikolai's. He was making the deep NFT value bot, but now he has a like news aggregator. It's like Deep News. And I used to be the person who would get all their news from Reddit. Like from 2012 to 2016, like one of the first things I would do would go on Reddit, look at like the top 50 things on all, and then that would be my view of like, oh, what was important today. Now, like I can't really trust. I feel like I can't trust Reddit.
no.
Or ever since the 2016 election.
We could talk about that. I have so much to say on that.
Yeah, like ever since then, we'll go to it in a second. Ever since then, I feel like I can't trust Reddit. But the deep news is like, oh, here's, you know, all and then sports and then like world politics and technology. But like it lets me very quickly be like, oh, what? Because it aggregates all the major articles and then it does a summary of like the combined article. So like the whatever you read is like 15, 30 seconds. And it's actually helped me keep up with like some stuff going on in the Middle East, but then like new tech coming out of CES, also some punk sales or like things that might be under the radar in the NFT space. And it's just been like, okay, I can spend 5 minutes once a day. And it's very similar to like Roger Dickerman's thing where every 24 hours we have art coming at us or any of Punk's statistics or Punk 9059 or NFT statistics, his stuff. It's like, I like the things where it's aggregated for me. And I can spend a lot less time having to feel like I need to keep up with things. And then I know like, okay, I'm not missing anything.
Yeah, I do like that about the 24 hours of art.
All right. So tell me about a day in your life and how your artistic process looks.
Oh my God. I wake up at 5:30. I go to the gym. I come home. I eat something. again, second food. I eat breakfast and then I eat something else. Then I usually
Is breakfast like an oatmeal? Is it like some fruit?
Eggs, fruit, nuts, or oatmeal.
Okay.
That's
Depends on the vibe.
That's where I'm at. And then I get at my computer around like 10, 11. Maybe have some calls, do some admin shit, like answer emails, like just like kind of the boring stuff until about like 3, and then I lock in. And that's when I get into like, you know, Monday is freestyle, Tuesday is like cutting out images and like, you know, categorizing photos, and then Wednesday is animation, Thursday is the challenge. And then I do that until about like 6, and if I want to keep going, I keep going, or if I have to leave to go do something, then I leave. And that's pretty much every day. I try to go on a walk like between like 2 and 3, or like anytime I have a call, really, just because I like want to be outside. But sometimes that doesn't happen because I have to like be at my computer for a call. But I try to take calls on the go.
It's 3 to 6, 3 to 7. That's sacred time.
That's like the lock-in time. Because that's the thing. Being an artist is just all about locking in.
Do you have a way to get into a flow state? Like, do you have like a certain song you put on? Do you have like a poem? Like I recently read Stephen Pressfield's The War on Art, and he talks about reading this like ode to the muse before he locks in.
I usually listen to music. That usually helps. Sometimes I'll meditate.
Yeah.
I'll just like literally like try to like get myself into a flow state that way, or I'll just like focus on my breathing and like get into a place where I'm like really like kind of subconsciously thinking, like my consciousness takes a step back and my subconscious kind of comes forward. But I think music is probably like the biggest way that I do it. And it just depends, because like on Tuesdays when I'm just like cutting out images, I don't really need to like be like locked in. I'm usually on a Twitter space when I'm doing that, just because like what the fuck else am I gonna be doing? But like, or I'm like listening to an audiobook or something like that, you know. But I would say like, the days where I have to lock in, like music is probably the best way, because most of the time, really, what I'm trying to do is like get myself to an emotional state that I've been in before, to like not only like help myself like free from it, but also like make the art and like kind of codify that experience in my head and then become free of it. Because I can like travel back in my head to like specific times in my life that were like not so great, and like make art from like a place of pain or places that are like really awesome and like find that joy. You know what I mean? And it's just like kind of like tapping into like whatever I need to kind of like make that piece work.
While we're
or
on
just
this
a
topic,
vibe in general. One thing really quick, like, oh my God, like this summer I got like super into this one artist named Ethel Cain, and like her music is just such a fucking vibe. Not a vibe that I've ever known. Like the whole, like this album that I got super obsessed with is about this girl in the 90s who grows up as a preacher's daughter in Florida. Like I have nothing in common with this like character, but like she like, it starts with like her in like her hometown, and then she like is with this like abusive partner, and then they like go on a road trip, and then he ends up like leaving her, so then she finds this other guy, and then he ends up like murdering her and eating her. It's like crazy.
Oh wow.
It's literally insane. I mean, we can listen to it later. I'm so down. But like it helps me get into this like emotional state that like I've never known, but like I relate to so deeply. And her other music like is the same thing, but I'm like getting chills like talking about it. It like puts me in such a fucking good headspace, because it's like it's not related to me at all. It's like completely neutral ground where I've like been able to like tap into this like other character, because a lot of my favorite musicians do that. Like The Weeknd does it really well, and like I'd say like Lana Del Rey does it really well, where it's like she's often singing about like a character. It's not her, right? Like Brooklyn Baby is not about her. Sorry if you think it is. It's not. You know, it's just like she's like created this character like in the night, about in like The Weeknd in the night, that song or whatever, like that's not about him, that's about like some character he's created. And I just think that like it's important to be able to do that as an artist and like create this like neutral ground, this like third person experience that you can like kind of create from, because then it's like the emotions get like kind of put in there, and people I kind of don't tell people like which pieces I make from that place and which pieces I just kind of make, but like I like can people notice, they're like, wow, I feel like so much emotion in this, and I'm like, yeah, it's because I like went into that like headspace, and then I like threw this at you, and that's why you
how I
feel
feel
it.
when I see a piece of a bunch of red.
Yeah. Oh, the red is interesting. So the red was super inspired by, I was in London last December 2022, and everything's very red in London. It's very cool, and I loved the way it looked, and I thought it was really dope. and then the other thing with the red is there's this song by Fantagram, and one of the lyrics is, if I could paint the sky, all the stars would be a bloody red. And like, it just like puts me back in this headspace of like being like so fucking just like angry and angsty and mad at everyone. And it's just like, if I could, I would just tear the fucking sky down and all of you would suffer. Like, and it's just like, I obviously don't feel that way. Like, this is like a very like old place that I've been that like I don't feel, but like I can tap into that emotion and like kind of extract like the angst out of it to like put into the piece of work. And it's almost like, you know, like Dumbledore with his little pensive with the, like the little memories.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it's like. And then it's out of me. And then I no longer have to think about that.
That brings me back to like Call of Duty 4 lobbies.
Yeah.
Like I'll paint. Yeah. That's the headspace I was in. Like,
No,
if you were to
seriously.
put the memory,
But
that's
you don't
the
feel
memory.
that way right now.
No.
You know what I mean?
Oh,
Exactly.
I haven't felt that way in like at least 6 years.
Yeah, like compartmentalization is such a fucking helpful tool. And it's just like, I never feel the way that like the emotions are going towards, but like, it's really important for me to like get them out there. And it's important for me to not just have negative emotions. Cause I think that like, obviously a lot of my past is negative emotions, but like there are very positive ones. Cause I think that like art that like, kind of like with like the, you know, like lifting and everything, it's, I want to inspire people. But I think that Eckhart Tolle is like one of my favorite spiritual philosophers. And like, one of the things he does is he talks about how there's this thing called pain body, and it's like this idea that like when you experience something negative, the pain gets like lodged into your like central nervous system and it becomes trauma, right? But it's also contagious. So it's like when you like, I mean, I think the reason that like Juice WRLD was so popular, and I know you love Juice, I'm sorry, it's a good example. Like the reason he was so popular is because he brings out this like sadness in people and they relate to it. And I don't think that's a bad thing. And I think that he specifically took it in such a positive way, and he's like, I'm sad, but we're sad together and we're gonna get through this. Sadly, he did not necessarily get through it.
I mean, and then Lil Peep.
Lil Peep, same thing.
Similar. But
Post
I
Malone
got to
even.
a point where I listened to that music too much, and it was all related to the 2018, 2019 bear market that like I put it on out of nostalgia sometimes, but like I don't like to listen to it every day anymore because I think about like looking at my bank account and being like, I'm broke. I'm like, the world's on drugs. Like I'm on drugs. Like I'm just
I'm on drugs. The world's on drugs.
It's over. It's over.
Damn.
And then, you know, when you just listen to like songs about overdosing and death and like gang shit and breakups and like that's the topic of every song. It
kind of
like
makes you feel
seeps
bad
into your subconscious.
That's the pain body. It's like that feeling of like you become so attracted to it that like you feel it in you. That's pain body, and it's like your related trauma. It's not always a good thing. So I try to make art that's like not from that place.
Yeah. So like I don't listen to it as much anymore. Like can't listen to Trippie Redd anymore. Like I mean I'll put it on out of nostalgia once every 6 months.
Have you ever heard of Trippie the Kid?
No, I don't think so.
I only know one song. It's called Lee Lee Lee, and it's really
sounds like
good.
a SpongeBob. Like
it's like me and the Dutchman going Lee 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 Lee. It's so fucking funny. Like I don't know. It comes on at the gym sometimes, like in my headphones, and I'm like, I don't know.
Just get you pumped up.
It's just funny.
If you're trying to join the 1,000 Club, or you put on Lee?
No, I usually put on like straight dubstep. Like I'm in like the
highest BPM.
No, not like that stuff, but like just the stuff that like makes me like very happy.
Okay.
Like Grizz or like Subtronics or I don't know, like Flux Pavilion, Rusco, like
put on like Kill Everybody.
Yeah,
like
just like
old
it's
Skrillex.
got like a good like bass line, so it's like it's very consistent. That's what I listen to when I'm like lifting usually.
My go-to is like older punk music. That like
really
we used to go to shows too back when we were like in high school and stuff.
Like what?
It depends. That depends too. Like sometimes it's more like metalcore and stuff like that.
Like what?
Like August Burns
Red.
Red.
I love August
and,
Burns
like,
Red. I
the
knew
Devil
it.
Wears
I
Prada
knew
and
it. I
shit.
knew you would fucking like August Burns Red.
But lately it's been like Suburban Scum and like Expire.
Oh,
and
you're
all,
really in the punk shit. Okay, shit.
Not
Okay.
as much anymore, but when I'm at the gym.
That's really
brings
funny.
up-
Yeah.
The Ghost Inside is my favorite band. Their music makes me so happy because they're such a good example of an artist that like they sound angry, but they're not. The entire thing is like stick to your values. Like go love yourself.
That's
and
how so much of that music used to be.
But
Yeah.
I fucking love it because it's just like, it's so positive. And like, I will see them live anytime they play in Southern California, just because I love their fucking vibe and I love listening to them at the gym.
And a lot of that music from that time, I feel like something that I appreciate about it now with like the benefit of hindsight too, is a lot of it is like very angry, but it's like angry with like a general desire for things to be better or like to like feel happier or things like that. It's like a
critique.
Yeah, like one of the bands that I really liked growing up was this band called Counterparts.
Yeah.
And like a lot of their stuff is like that, where it's like very angry, but it's like angry about things and like wanting it to be better, like wanting things to change, as opposed to just like being angry for the sake of being angry. But also there's a space for that sometimes when you're lifting.
I will say the Ghost Inside's new music is fucking crazy. Their newest single that they put out, I had to scoop my jaw off the floor. I haven't
listened to new music like that in a long time. I'm putting on like old Spotify playlists of all this stuff.
Their newer music is so fucking good. And that's another band I'll like kind of listen. I feel like in 2018 I had like a spiritual experience. I was driving home from San Francisco in 2018 and I was driving through the Angeles forest and like I was listening to The Ghost Inside and like it was You Get What You Give, that album, and like it's just the whole album is about like reach your goals, sacrifice is important, like don't lose sight of anything, people will leave, like just very like motivating. And I remember like listening to that and being like, I am going to be successful and I need to get there and I am not going to stop until I do. And like I like made this promise to myself and like it's mostly come true, like, which is kind of cool. And like now I'm at a point where I'm like, okay, I will be more successful. It's like building, right? And it's kind of cool, but it's like, it's crazy to think that like, you know, all it took was just like me having like an experience where I was like, this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And then I like set out to do it. And I made a very old at this point, like piece of art about that experience, which was really cool. But I feel like I try to make art that's like either based on my experiences or like based on like things that I think, like the Red Season is just like stuff like I like the color red. I'm making art that's red. I don't always make art that's just like dedicated to a color. So like here it is. But like a lot of the work that I'm making now is just like trying to like really show you like it's emotional. It's like a greasy slice of pizza. You're going to get oil on your hands. You're going to get emotion all over you. That's a good thing though.
Yeah.
What, how would you define your artistic style? Because I said earlier when I introed you, like, I don't even know exactly what I said. I think I said something along the lines of like trippy, collage, landscape.
You didn't say collage. I thought you were going to say collage.
I thought you were going to say collage too. I know you didn't because I recognized it.
Yeah, you didn't say collage. You were just
okay,
like,
well, I think of it, but like I see that's why
I would say contemporary surrealism collage art. If I had to put it in 4 words, those are the 4 words I would use. Because it's not like Dali surrealism. It's definitely like a newer kind of like refined breed of surrealism. But then it's also collage art. And I think that like what I've learned is like a lot of collage artists, what they'll do is they like use collage as like a stepping stone to become like a more sophisticated artist, as they like to say. And like, I don't think collage is unsophisticated. So for me, I'm not trying to use this shit as a stepping stone. This is what I do. It's what I've always done. I've been making collage art since I was 12. The thing that's changing now is the way that I'm doing it. So it's like animating it or like making physicals or like making things that are like stop motion, right? It's like that is like how I'm deepening my understanding of the craft. Like stuff that like Dustin Yellen does is impressive. Like that is like collage, right? Mm-hmm. And it's just like that's the kind of stuff like I want to do things like that, not necessarily like become a 3D sculptor. Like to me, that's not really like the avenue I want to take with my work. It's like I would rather take every single image that I do and become really good at photography and like create like physical sculptures that are still collage than like become like a 3D artist or like a painter or I don't know, like a sculptor or something.
What drew you to collage like early on?
I don't fucking know. I feel like it got drawn to me. Like I love putting 2 things together that like shouldn't be put together. Like it's just always been a thing. Like even with food, like peanut butter and miso, incredible. Like I'm not even kidding. Like carrots and like peanut butter, even better. Like I don't know. I've just
Have you ever had pickles and peanut butter?
Yeah, it's delicious.
Yeah, it's good.
Like it's just like, you know, it's just like fuck. I don't fucking know. I've always been this person that like likes to add like weird shit together and like it just works. You know, like I was super inspired by like in Toy Story 3, like Sid's like little like doll head thing on the spider. Like, I thought that was cool. I looked at that and I was like, that's inspiring to me. And it's just like, that's always been like my kind of like art where like, I don't know, like for some reason, like painting and drawing, that kind of stuff. Like I did it when I was younger, but like, it just didn't click the way that like collage did. For some reason, collage just like worked. And I got really, really good at understanding like copyright and then became comfortable putting my stuff on the internet.
And then you're in a group called Collage House.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
House of Collage. Yeah.
Yes. How did that come about?
It's just a whole bunch of different collage artists who just like wanted to like see collage be more in the forefront. But now that like Super Rare is kind of like imploded, we're like, what do? We need to like make this a little better. Like, you know, so we're kind of like trying to figure out like how to like revamp it beyond just like showing people's workplaces. I have ideas, but we've all been busy, so it's like been kind of hard. But that's one of the things that I really want to like work on this year. It's like, how do we like make this like a community?
Like it seems like at least like the few collage artists I know, it's like kind of a more tight knit group. Is that true or maybe not?
We're not like homies, but like we all talk.
Yeah.
We're not like besties. Like we're not like the photographers who are like literally all together all the time.
Photographers are like
they're very like insular. Where I feel like we all talk to each other. Like I hang out with like Ted's little dream anytime he's in LA, just because his brother lives in LA. So like when he's around, like I got dinner with him a few weeks ago or lunch, and then I'll call like Erin McGean. We'll like talk, you know. Rebecca Rose, like love her so much.
She's
like
great.
I talk to her.
She's so nice.
I'll just like text her randomly and just be like, what do you think about this? And it's just like, you know, so it's like we all talk to each other, but I wouldn't say that like we're all like besties. There's nothing against anyone. It's just like, that's kind of where my head is at with it. It's just like, we're not like.
I think Erin was the first, if I think I remember it correctly. I think she was the first collage artist I collected a piece from.
That's awesome.
And then.
That's super cool.
Because it was like the summer of 2021 and her work was like completely different. She was taking this like black and white.
With the flowers and like the landscapes, right?
Yeah, I got like it's a very blue and pink landscape out in the desert, but then it's like a black and white cutout of a lady
silhouette.
Who's in a very like what's the word, like weak position. Like she's like hunched over and like covered up. And then we've had that hanging like in our house, our old house, and it's in our new house too. So she was like the first one. It was like, because the way she does her, at least the way she got this one made, it's like, depending on the angle you look at it, it looks like it's like floating off of the page.
Oh, it's like a floating frame.
Yes.
Cool.
So it like has this really nice effect when you look at it from the side. You're like, oh,
Love that.
Her and Rebecca, when she started before she got into the animations and she just put the stills up.
Yeah.
We got one of her early stills.
Yeah.
And then she's like one of the most, like you said, nicest people. She's
such
got us a whole
sweetheart.
Disney trip and like explained, like a concierge Disney advisor. That's what I would call it. Like she told us everything we had to do perfectly. And then obviously Jess just executed it while I sat there and hit the vape in the hotel. So thank God for Jess. But
that's awesome.
Yeah, we have a question we ask everybody. We haven't asked you yet.
Oh no, what is it?
You know it. It's what would the title of your autobiography be? If you were to write one. Because this is what I use to make the art for the episode. So you can have that in the back of your mind when you title it.
I'm usually really good at just like
It's the most
Here,
important
hold on.
title.
I'll give you a second to think, and I'll ask you something else, and you can think about it.
No.
back
I
in
want to
a-
say
You good?
really quick, like one of the things that I'm a very like mental thinker. So it's like I'm the kind of person that like I typically have an answer like immediately, and like the thing that came to mind immediately was Not Dead at 25, but I don't know if that's what I like. But like that's what came to mind like immediately, because I thought for the longest time I was going to be dead by the time I was 25. Like I just did. I thought I was like, there's no way. Like there's no fucking way. Like I'm gonna start like, you know, shooting ketamine and just fucking kill myself. Like there's just no fucking way. And like it didn't happen. I remember turning 26 and I was like, well, that failed.
I felt that
failed
way when I
successfully.
turned 28.
Yeah,
Because I was like
27 club.
27 club. And I was like, yeah, like I'm probably unlucky. And then I turned 28 and I'm like, okay, like maybe I could do this.
No. That it's like it's so real. Like I have so many friends they get sober when they're 26 because that's when your insurance runs out.
Oh, from your family.
Yeah, and then
okay.
it's like your insurance runs out when you're 26.
I never thought of that.
Yeah, and then like so you can't keep going to just go to rehab, and then you basically like, you know, realize very quickly, like, yeah, you're not just like in college anymore. You know, you like get way past that point and like people are like having kids and shit. And you're like, why are you smoking heroin? You know, so,
but the 2016 election,
I could talk about that.
I know we have an election cycle, you know, coming up. We just finished the Iowa caucus.
It was last night and Trump won that's great. You know, awesome.
What do you think his went wrong since 2016?
Okay, so I have a degree in political science. I didn't
know that.
Oh, you didn't? Yeah. So I worked in politics. I worked on the Hill. I worked for the Democratic Party. And then I worked on a campaign, which is why I was in Detroit. And that was post 2016, but I worked on the 2016 presidential, and like I didn't really realize at that time like how crazy everything was. Like I woke up on like the election day and I was like, time to elect a first female president. Like I had no fucking clue.
I mean,
because I was like, you know, I've always been, I mean, I hate to call it myself out like this, but like coastal elite. Like my dad works for NASA. I went to school in Washington, D.C. Like I don't fucking know. I went to like private school. Like for me, it was just like, okay, like we're electing Hillary Clinton. Like I didn't see a different side of it. Yeah. Then I moved to Michigan and started working in like a very purple state doing like campaign stuff and started talking to these like donors and started hearing from like normal people. Like their parents don't work for like the University of blah, blah, blah. Like they're journeymen, right? Like these normal people. And they had a very different opinion and it like changed the way that I felt. It's actually part of the reason I got out of politics because I was like, this is like scummy. Like who am I? This person who grew up in like the DC suburbs and has never known like food stamps or government assistance. Who am I to like work in this field, right? But what I learned later was that like the 2016 campaign was objectively like, I don't want to say sabotage because that I shouldn't use objectively sabotage, but like it was objectively manipulated by like big data and algorithms, like from Cambridge Analytica. Like Steve Bannon, the digital director, the communications director, he paid Cambridge Analytica so much money to make these like focus groups and create these talking points of what he thought people that like were American people wanted to hear. So like they created focus groups that from like people all over the country, like what's bothering you? What are these issues that you feel like are upsetting you or whatever it is? Guns, abortion, all the hot button issues, heard what these people had to say. And then the ones that were like the most popular became Trump's talking points. Like they intentionally created this narrative based on what was embroiling people and making them angry because they knew that if we can make them angry, we can make them do something. Mm-hmm. So then they put it all online and then they created, I mean, as we know, algorithms create echo chambers. And at the time, Facebook was the biggest echo chamber. So I was in an echo chamber of like, we're electing Hillary Clinton. I don't see another alternative. Where like these people were in the echo chamber of like, the America's terrible. The only thing we can do is elect Donald Trump. And it worked, right? I mean, because of the Electoral College, it worked. Like I remember being at a watch party in 2016 and like we all were just like watching the map go red and we were like, what? Like no one in the room knew that that was going to happen. We all were I mean, like I was working for the Maryland Democratic Party. Maryland is 87% Democrat. Like it is as blue as it gets. Like you're like Vermont, Maryland, like that's it. So it's just like, there was no way that I thought that was going to happen. But it was so deeply entrenched in like the data and just like the algorithms that people were being served. And like, to me, if I ever needed another job, that's what I would go do.
Go back.
100%. I would go into like big data and like specifically like social media and like internet for like politics, because to me, that is so interesting just because I think that like there are so many people out there that don't realize how much the data that is being scraped and collected from these websites is like affecting what they do online. Like it's kind of gross. And I mean, that's part of the reason, I guess people in Web3 would know, you know, but like that's part of the reason that like there is such a push for something bigger and like more self-sovereign, because these companies, they do know so much about you.
How do you think that like algorithm and a lot of, you know, a lot of your livelihood, our livelihood relies on algorithms too, like whether it's using and trying to not even abuse, but like play the game of this is what I know gets good engagement and I got to do it. Like,
I don't know, Andy, talk about it. I feel like that's your game.
Well, no, it definitely is like, it's funny and it's weird, especially because you like can feel it changing.
It's always changing, especially I'm dialed into Twitter and it's like, I felt that change like every 2 months. Yeah. It's like, oh, it doesn't like this form of like content.
I've been reading a lot of books that came out in like 2019, and they keep talking about Twitter and Facebook, and it's really funny because I'm like, they don't mention TikTok at all.
Yeah.
They don't mention, you know, like Elon buying Twitter, like that just.
Are you
wasn't
very
on-
active on TikTok, by the way?
I'm active, but I'm not like. I'm trying to be more active now.
Yeah, I feel like it's a great platform to have an audience on, like objectively speaking.
Yeah, it is. I just feel like a lot of people, like in 2019, if we think back like 5 years ago, people were so into Facebook. They were so into like Twitter, right? Like Twitter was everything. And I feel like now it's like not really like that. Like I feel like the average consumer has like shifted their focus away from Twitter. And it's kind of become like crypto Twitter land, which I think is fine. I don't mind.
It's like crypto, sports, some politics.
Everything's become very entrenched. Like
AI.
Everyone is like I remember being early in Twitter, people like where I grew up in a predominantly like black area, and it was like, oh, black Twitter, right? It was like all the jokes that like all of like black people would make, and I didn't understand what that meant because like I was like, well, I'm not black, so I'm not a part of this, but like, what does this mean? And then I learned very quickly that was like what the like term was for this like, you know, borderless Twitter space of people who engage with each other. And then I learned, you know, there's crypto Twitter, and then there's like EDM Twitter, and there's AI Twitter and art Twitter and like photo Twitter and all these different things. And it's like, they're not like Facebook groups where you need to be like accepted. It's more like, you know, you just kind of start engaging with these people and they engage back, and then that's what you end up seeing. But I think that like, because of that, we've created such a entrenched like group on Twitter where it's like, if you only want to see crypto Twitter tweets, you will. Like, because I mean, Wook is not about Star Wars, right? So it's like in the music festival scene, like EDM Twitter, kids will literally tweet things like, who is like, what do they say? They were like, why is Fish playing on the Sphere? There are so many better artists who could play, like Sullivan King. And it's like, do you not know who Fish is? Like, what the fuck are you talking about right now? But they don't know because they're like 22 and they're so entrenched in their little Twitter that they don't know who Fish is. They don't know who one of the greatest jam bands of all time. And it's just
why is U2 using the Sphere?
Yeah, like it's just like why it's like, woo, like if someone made a tweet once, they were like, oh, like it's so great that Post Malone is like bringing up like smaller artists like Ozzy Osbourne. It's like, the fuck are you talking about? Like, it's just like when you don't know and you get so entrenched in this like one little space, it's like you like lose the context of everything. And I don't think it's a good thing. I don't. Yeah. But the hot takes work. I mean,
yeah, they do. But it's funny. Like, I feel like for me, like over the last couple of months on Twitter, my engagement has like completely fallen off. So like, what's surprising to me is like for the last like month, all I've been tweeting about for the most part is this new project that I'm working on. And I get people who ask me all the time, like, hey, are you working on anything? I'm looking for dev help. And I'm like, yeah, like, have you looked at anything I've posted on Twitter over the last like 2 months? And it's just like, they probably haven't seen any of it.
Yeah,
but this is the problem.
Yeah.
When you talk about something that you made that you're trying to get attention on, Twitter fucking sucks. Yeah. When I'm talking about something somebody else made that I'm trying to get attention on, Twitter is awesome. Like, I tweeted so much about the podcast NFTs for like 8 weeks.
Yeah.
And after 8 weeks, the amount of people who are like, oh, I just saw this for the first time. It's like, I've been tweeting really 3-4 times a day about this thing for 8 weeks, and you haven't seen it until like 8 weeks later. But then like somebody like, you know, I'll just take the Solana phones thing, for example. Like, I put out a shit post about Solana phones. It's like 300 likes in 10 minutes. Or even the James Jean print, I put a screenshot of his print, and like that got 100 likes immediately. And it's like, well, that's good. But like when it comes time to talk about my own thing, Twitter just is like, oh, fuck you. And then, do you feel like that too?
I will post an Instagram story and it will get 50,000 views of my forehead. And then I will post an Instagram story. Same circumstance, like no story before it, like haven't posted in a little bit, and it will get 3,000 views if it's like about my art or something. And I'm like, why does my forehead get 50,000 fucking views? That's not what I want people to see. I want them to see
video.
My art. 100, they'll get so many views. And it's like, okay, I do get it. It's like, I am like objectively, like in most circumstances I am in, like in any commercial gym that I go in. And this is like probably like, you know what? No, I'm just going to say it. Like, I'm probably the strongest person in the room, if not one of the strongest people in the room. Right. And it's just like, I know that it's impressive, but sometimes I'm like, damn, pay attention to maybe like something else that I'm doing, you know? And I think that like part of it, and like this is a hot take, but it's not a hot take, is like part of it, especially on Twitter, is like I think people are so afraid of like a woman talking, and they don't realize that like that's what their fear is. They're like, wow, she has so many hot takes. And it's like, is that true, or am I just like a woman speaking?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't even think they're that hot takes.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, a lot of the hot takes on Twitter just aren't that hot either.
No, they're not. They're like lukewarm at best. And like I got called a contrarian the other day, and I'm like, I'm not a contrarian.
What
like,
did you say that was contrarian?
I didn't say anything. They just like introduced me as a contrarian.
Oh,
and I was like, whoa. Like I don't think I'm really that contrarian at all. I think that, you know, like I see things. I mean, I think it's because I worked in politics. It's like my whole life I was trained to seek out the problem, discuss and critique the problem, and then be a part of fixing the problem. And like, I feel like I'm trying to do that. It's just like, I've realized as I've been an adult that like fixing the problem is a lot harder
so hard
than like it looks, right? It's not like, you know, we're on the sandcastle and we just need to like put another flag here. It's like, it actually takes like some work, but it's just like, I would never complain about something that I'm not willing to help fix. Like that is just how I am, right? So it's just like, I don't know, when people are like, oh, you just like, you know, hot take after hot take. And I'm like trying to be a part of a conversation and like talk about these things so we can fix them. I'm not just like calling them out to call them out. Like,
what are some of the things that you have called out that you want to like help fix?
Oh man. Okay. One of the things that I wish was more prevalent that like I'm kind of starting to do on my own is like the body diversity and like specifically like the subject focused work that I see. This is a problem for all art, but like specifically on like Twitter and like in Web3, a lot of the models are runway models types, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. That's like what people are used to seeing. But like there's also like something beautiful about like using a subject that maybe you wouldn't see on a runway. You know what I mean? Like maybe using someone that like it looks a little bit more like the average person. And I know you own a piece of art that it makes me so uncomfortable. 360, right? Is it the
piece that's called Uncomfortable?
Yeah, the one where like there's a gun in it.
Film God's Q.
Like that piece makes me so uncomfortable, but I like it for that reason, right? Because it's like it's so like it feels like they're two normal looking people and they're in this like very specific situation. But like to me, like I want more art like that. Like I wish Milton, like his work to me is so cool because he uses so many different types of artists, so many different types of like, you know, models and scenes and everything else. And it's just like, I want to see like more of that. So like what I've started doing to kind of help with that is I've gotten in front of the camera. I'm in my work now. And it's just like, to me, like that is how I can counter this. That's how I can help. It's just like, I put myself in a situation where like I am doing what I think like can be done. Because like, I mean, my dad played football, not professionally or anything, but like, you know, and like I unfortunately inherited those genes. So like I'm built like a refrigerator, which kind of sucks. But it's just like, I want people who look like me, not just in the gym. Because women come up to me in the gym all the time. They're like, you are the only person I've ever seen in real life who looks like I do and I feel inspired by. And I'm like, that is the biggest compliment. And I'm like, why not have that in art too? You know? So it's like, and it's weird. Like I'll be editing these photos that I'm in and I'm like, damn, like I'm like really muscular. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. It's who I am, you know? So that's one of the things. I feel like the other thing that I've really been trying to help counter is like the fact, and we've talked about this like before, but it's just like the fact that there are some predatory men in the space who are intentionally trying to not hurt, but like capitalize and exploit women, right? And I think that like one of the things I've tried to do is like really find and like foster the relationships with men that I feel like are good dudes. Because there are so many. Like there are so many. The problem is just like the ones who are like I mean, like I don't even want to like say his name, but like Pauly is just like, he's such a bad person.
Yeah, but then you have the other, you know, there's people like, I'll just throw names out there because I don't really care.
You
but
can
there's
always
like
bleep anything too. If
yeah.
we need to.
There's like 888. He comes,
Yeah.
and then I think of like the Cato guy, like Cato gang, like he was There's the fucking threesomes, dude.
Yeah, like
Well, I
those
think,
people
like-
aren't cool. They're not good people.
No, they're fucking
Well, I
gross.
think like as you were talking earlier about, you know, like seeing more diversity in models and things like that. Like, I think the shitty part about it is like, one, I think that the guys, like the people who I think about when I see that stuff, I think they're pretty set on the type of artist, like the type of model that they're gonna have in their stuff.
But that's the problem.
Which is not good. And,
Yeah.
But I think the other issue is that a lot of men in the crypto space who are just like in the crypto space already, they're just like kind of fucking losers, and they're just gonna see like some hot model girl and be like, oh, I want this NFT because she's hot.
Yeah.
Like that's cool. And like don't actually appreciate anything about the artwork. And what they appreciate is that it's like some skinny girl with nice boobs. And they're like, wow, this is sick artwork. I like it because of the artwork.
That's exactly it. And
It's the art. I'm in it for the
to
art.
me, like that's what's so weird because it's like I never met anyone who liked nude art until I met Mr. Postwook, and like he's liked nude art for like a long time. He's like shot like suicide girls, like that's always been like something that he's really enjoyed. And like I at first was like, I don't know how I feel about this. Like explain to me why you like this, and he like explained it, and basically it's just like the human body is art, and like there is no like reason that we shouldn't view it that way. But I've seen the work that he's collected and the work that he likes and even the work that he's shot, and it's just like, yeah, like it's very obvious to me that you feel that way based on like the models and everything that you use. But you're so right, and I feel like part of what I've thought about is just like recently there's been this thought of people always complain about like, oh, I'm losing followers and people aren't engaged, and then there's, you know, it's like this mindset of like lack where they're like, this person just spent like XYZ on, you know, some stupid thing and they could have spent it on art. And it's like, you're wasting your time on the wrong things. The way I see it, like if you are an artist and you are concerned that like someone is spending their money on something that isn't you, it's like, there's more to go around first. But also like when it comes to like the art that people are specifically interested in, it's just like, I have to remember that like the people who want like hot model, nice tits, like that's not really for the art.
No.
Right? And like, I'm not
Like you'll
going
buy
to
the same thing
convince
from
them.
Barstool or something. Like
Right. I'm not going to convince those people
Buy
that
a
they
Sports
like work.
Illustrated swimsuit edition.
Yeah.
Call it a day.
Right. Seriously. You know, and it's just like, it's like those people don't like the art. So like, I'm not going to sit here and try to focus on those people. But for the people who do like the art, that's where I'm like, okay, let me put myself in this. I'm not like naked or anything, but it's like, let me put myself in this. Let me at least try to like put like a model and like a form in here that maybe people haven't seen, that like, it's not meant for people to like find me attractive. It's meant to be like, oh, okay, like there's more than one type here. Like one of my like good friends, his name is Oswaldo. He's Moody Darkroom. He shoots, like we've shot together. Like he's doing like this is crazy. He is doing like this like book, and it's like all nudes, and like we did a shoot, and he's like a good friend of mine. He was like, I'm just going to put up a camera. And I was like, great. That makes me feel more comfortable. Right. And like, no worries, like no problem. You know what I mean? And to me, that's like not weird. And it's just like that kind of stuff is that to me is like the kind of thing that I probably never would have done if I didn't meet all of like the nude photographers I've met in the space. Right. So like, I want to give back in that way. Right. But you're so right. It's like the people who are just like, oh, like nice tits. It's like, yeah, of course. But like, I don't know. To me, I just see right through that. I'm just like, that's so boring.
It's, as a married collector, it's like, so you bring your wife in.
Right.
And you're like, you know, the feminine gaze thing is real. And I'll just have, you know, Jess just be like, you tell me what you think of this.
Yeah.
And like, I think a good example is Meg Bat. Like
yeah.
we love Meg, but her work is done with this different, I think, artistic intent than like a lot of the other people who maybe even shoot similar models or the same models.
I would agree.
And having, you know, the wife come in and be like, oh no, like I would hang this up on the wall. It's like, okay, like I'm not just, you know, monkey brain, whatever.
But
it's
the
like,
Well, I feel like even more so, like for me, it would just be like, if I bought this NFT and then I said, hey, Allie, look at the NFT I just bought, would she be mad at me?
Right.
Yes,
Thank
Like,
you.
Andy, what the fuck?
Thank you. No, that's like such a good test of like your standards. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with like selling sex. Like fine, like do it. But it's just like
Yeah, it works.
It does, and it's always worked.
Very
but
Lindy.
It's also just like, I don't know. I just feel like there's a way to do it. I think that I have a problem with the fact that it's mostly men who are taking these like erotic and like provocative photos of women, and like the women are like, well, I'm a model, I got paid, like I don't really give a shit. But then it's like you look at other women and it's just like, oh, like I don't want to be perceived like this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I don't want like people to look at me as like, you look like this model or you don't. You know what I mean? Like, and it's just, that's kind of part of it. And like, I don't know, women talk about that kind of stuff a lot, but I think, yeah, I mean, the male gaze and like the female gaze is like so real.
Yeah.
And
I think it's also just like so much more exacerbated in crypto because it is more so than like any of the other places, just like so male dominated already. And the NFT space is like slightly less male dominated than the entire
overall crypto space. Yeah.
But like it's such a male dominated. It's such a straight white, like European male dominated thing.
Yeah. But I think
that, like,
the one thing that I hope changes in the future here is like, and I think you two are good about this, is like bring in your wives, bring them in, because it's like in the traditional art world, when you see like a donor or like a collector, it's always the two of them together. And I think that a lot of at least in my world of when I worked in like politics and with all these like very, very fancy, sophisticated donors, the man made the money, and I hate to say it this way, but this is what it was. The man made the money and the woman spent it. And she usually was the donor in the family. Like when I would do these fundraisers, the women were the ones that were hosting it. Yeah, their husband was there or whatever, but like they were the ones hosting it. They were the ones who were inviting their friends. They were the ones that cared about the cause, right? And it's just like they were the ones that really like put in the effort to be like, this is what we should care about. And I think, I mean, art is the same way, because a lot of these people, oddly enough, not really, maybe a shocker or not, but like they also collected art. Right. So it's like that was exactly the same thing. The woman was the one acquiring these pieces. And I think that if we saw more people co-collecting the way you two do, the whole space would change. The whole fucking space would change. Because it's like, I think you two have such a good taste together that like you create this like, and I don't know if you and Allie do. I'm not trying to like.
No, it's okay.
You should.
We bought our first physical art together at Art Basel this year.
That's amazing. See,
it's not in our apartment yet, so you won't see it tonight, but it's supposed to be shipped in February. We're very excited. She'll show you photos.
That's the kind of shit that like I think is really cool. It's like you do things together, and it's like maybe crypto, you know, I think it is kind of a anonymous space for people to kind of like go into free fall and be this like alter ego of themselves. But it's just like, if we want this to become more of like a mainstream option, like one of the things that I think should happen is more like partner couple like collecting, like co-collecting, just because like, I mean, you're right. If it's gonna hang in your house, you might as well both like it.
I vibe check everything with her. Even the James Jean we bought this morning.
Yeah.
It was like, I know where I want to hang this. Like, what do you think if it goes there? And she's like, yeah, that'd be really good.
Yeah.
But it's like, I gotta know before I buy a physical where it's going in the house, or I can't buy it. That's like a rule we have, because if not, you just go into a closet in our house and it's just like, what happened here?
That's my rule with my tattoos as well. Every tattoo I get, I go and I have like an artist who I go to a lot now, and he works with his wife. And anytime he puts one on my arm, I'm like, all right, I gotta go take a photo. I gotta send it to Allie. Make sure that the location's good for her. And he's like, I get it. You gotta make sure that your wife's okay with it.
It's so crazy how observant Natasha is, because when you sat down, she immediately noticed you got a new tattoo. I didn't even notice that.
I feel like you can kind of tell just because it's so much darker.
Yeah, it's so much darker. Because I just got two new ones too, and they're so much darker.
For a couple days.
I think it's something you notice when you like have tattoos. I think too, like you just like notice, like, oh, that's darker. And like,
yeah, no, I was just like,
I had a long sleeve shirt on yesterday. You're good.
Yeah,
okay,
it's also don't worry, you're not like not observant.
I don't know. I'm definitely not as observant.
I think like I'm trying to think of like other things that I like want to like help with in the space. I mean, one of the things that a lot of artists talk to me about is like, you know, making themselves more well-rounded, right? And I think that like one of the things that I would love to see is like, you're not like, I've seen a few artists post about this. They're like, oh, I feel like a failure because I had to like take a job outside of Web3. And it's like, no, that's a good thing. That's actually like a good thing. Like to me, like when I see an artist be like, oh, I'm working with like so-and-so, like Smart Water or whatever, I'm like, oh, that's cool. You know, like that means that
secure the bag. Good job.
It's like, it's validating that like your art is liked by people who are not just right here. Right. And I think that like, I personally think that should be like more of a like,
oh, I think it's really cool.
It's like a green flag. It should be a bigger green flag for people than it is in the space, just because it's like,
I 100% agree.
Like I have shit in Target.
Yeah.
I have two planners in Target right now. And I still have pieces on secondary. No, I'm joking. But it's like, it kind of does feel that way. It's like, that should make you so bullish on my work, because it's like, I am in like one of the biggest like stores that you can buy things in, and people love it. Like, they requested a second one for this season because it was selling so well. It's just like, that is awesome. And it's just like the fact that, I don't know, the fact that like people don't.
How did that come up? Because like, I know there's a lot of people listening who probably need to diversify their income streams, need to think about like, hey, if I can't sell things that are minted on chain full time and need to do other things, like, how do you find the collaboration at Target?
They hit me up.
Yeah.
Which
so is it just like an
answer.
Instagram DM?
Yeah.
Do
Well,
you have like
a
email that's like, you know, inquiries at postwook.com or something? Or like,
yeah, it's hello at Postwook is like my like info box that I use for like a whole bunch of stuff. And basically what happens is like people what this one was is they emailed me and they were like, we really like your stuff, we want to license it, we want to like, we're starting this new offshoot of like what we're doing. It's like meant to be for like Gen Z and like younger people. It's intentional. We have like a lot of like inclusivity and like they have like a whole month. Like October is Disability Awareness Month. Like all of October is about like, how do you help people who are disabled, and what disabilities do you know about in your like friend group? Like, are disabilities like visible? It's like all this stuff that I'm like, I didn't even know that people cared. I mean, I'm glad they do, but it's like, that's awesome. And it's just like, they're very intentional with the way that they did it. And they were like, do you want to be a part of this? And I was like, yeah, this is like pretty fitting to my ethos. And like, we're in like a 5-year contract. So that started in 2021. And they want to renew it. But it's like the Target thing kind of came a little bit later. So they partnered, this like distribution company partners with Target, CVS, like Staples, all these different companies. But they wanted this specific offshoot to be in Target. And they were like, okay, we're going to launch the brand first, and then we're going to pitch it to Target. So it took a year. And then they pitched it to Target. Target loves it, and it works out now. But it's just like, there was like a little bit of time where it was just like, you know, okay, why am I doing this? This is kind of like whatever. But like sometimes collaborations are like that, where it's just like, sometimes it is a little bit more fitting for them, and then it becomes a little bit more fitting for you later.
And
Can
you'll
I
be talking
ask
to them early.
about the like dynamics of that? So you said you're working with a distribution company who then worked with Target.
Yeah.
Is it like, and you can say you don't want to talk about this as well, but I'm curious.
We can cut anything,
like,
can't we? Right?
Yeah, we can cut anything. Like, how does that actual like a 5-year agreement? Is it like a revenue share thing? Is it money up front? Like, what does that look like? Okay,
I got an advance and I get royalties.
that's sick.
So I got
That's
an
cool.
advance because I was like, you guys are not just gonna like take my shit and like not give me anything. So I got an advance for it, and then the royalties kicked in once the advance ran out. So it's like
Nice.
they took like the royalties of that advance
Yeah.
up until a certain point, and then like now it's just like money. And it's not like a ton. I mean, like it's royalties, right? So it's like, but it's Target, so they move volume.
Yeah.
And that's something I've realized as an artist is like, I'm a volume artist. Like I can sell a one of one, like that's not the problem, but like I'm a volume artist. Like I have so many followers, like so many people like my work, right? It's just like, I'm not like I would much rather sell like 100 editions than like try to like sell like 3 one of ones. Just because for me, I want everyone to be happy. But I also like the fun part of that becomes like the game of like, okay, now all these 100 people are happy. How do I make sure the scarcity is still there, right? And for me, I think part of the way I can do that is like I have the diverse career, right? Is like I, can do 100 editions and be like, yay, everyone's happy. And then I can go like work on like a 3-month partnership with Adobe and still make my bills. You know what I mean? And then I can like, do, I can't talk about it. Other things.
Yeah, you can also do like, you got the prints. So like maybe it's not an edition.
You have the calendar.
Yeah, the calendar.
We
You
bought
have a calendar.
multiple. Yeah. Because we bought
Clothing.
one for ourselves and one that we gifted to one of my siblings for Christmas.
That is so sweet. Thank you so much.
She loved it.
That's amazing.
The
That's
bathing
so cool.
suits.
Yeah, Jess has a bathing suit.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just like I have the other stuff, and I think like that is part of the way that I can kind of keep people happy. I did a burn recently, so it's like I'll do things like that. It's just like I think that having just like alternate avenues is a good way to be. I think someone tweeted about it recently where they were like, oh, like right now it's really hard to be like a full-time like NFT artist. And I actually appreciated that because I think that like, I don't think there should be any shame there. I think it should be a good thing of like, yeah, you're an artist. That to me is the green flag. Like take NFT out of your like handle. Like you're not an NFT artist, you're an artist. Maybe you sell NFTs, that's great. But it's just like, you wouldn't put like digital in your handle, you know what I mean? Like just take it out. It's like you're an artist, and like it doesn't matter like where you do it. You
yeah,
know?
you don't have to be so tied to the medium.
Yeah.
Like however you sell your art is fine, and if one of those is NFTs, cool.
I think that's great. And I think that for me, like crypto has merged a big interest in mine of like art and tech and just like cryptocurrency in general. Like I've always, so I mean, I was a degenerate before trading degenerates existed, right? It's like I was getting like arrested at like 14 for like public intoxication and like robbing liquor stores. Like as I was like swimming in public school, like my life was always really weird. Yeah, I don't know. But like I like because of that, like when you buy drugs in bulk in 2010, you bought them on Silk Road and you bought them with, you know, Bitcoin, this weird like PayPal type encrypted thing that's what I knew of Bitcoin. That when I heard of Bitcoin in 2010, it was like a way you bought money or you paid on PayPal to Bitcoin and you bought the Bitcoin through PayPal and then you used the Bitcoin on Silk Road to buy stuff. Like that is how I knew how to buy things with Bitcoin. Like that's what Bitcoin was for me. And then I learned that like, you know, way later people were trading it and I was like, what? Like that's crazy. Like this is something I bought drugs with.
Yeah.
So it's just like, it's weird to me how much it's changed, but like the ethos I think of those like people in like 2010 is like still in the space, which I like. So it's like, I find these people in the space that I'm like, you get it. Like you get it. You've been buying drugs on Silk Road too. Like you understand.
You get it.
Like you fucking get it. You know, it's just like, and I just feel like, you know, my life has changed so much. And like, I can kind of like tell like when people got into like crypto, like you're probably what, like 2015?
It was late 2016.
Yep. You were in that like middle crowd, which is cool.
Yeah, it was. So because I graduated college in 2016.
Okay. Yeah.
So I had like been familiar with the idea of it beforehand, but I was just so broke.
Yeah.
And I didn't do drugs, and so that wasn't
That's a good thing. That's a good thing.
Yeah, good thing was that wasn't like a reason for me to buy it. And like when I graduated college, I like going through college was very much like I want to ask my parents for as little help as possible.
Yeah.
And so I graduated with like all my credit cards maxed. Like I was broke. And so it was like once I got a real job, and then I like learned about Ethereum because I had like bought some Bitcoin. And then I like was just down the rabbit hole from there.
Yeah, I don't think I heard about Ether. It was a while. It was from the trading people. The trading people told me about Ether because I knew about Bitcoin from drugs, and then Ether people were like the like ICO bubble people.
Yeah, for me it was just like literally because it was on Coinbase. Like I downloaded Coinbase to buy Bitcoin, and then I was like, what are these other coins? It was only Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Litecoin at that point.
Yeah.
And I was like, Litecoin, I could put the pieces together pretty quick about what it was.
Yeah, right.
But then Ethereum, I was like, what is this?
Silver to Bitcoin's
Yeah,
gold,
it's
dude.
obvious.
Very simple.
It's very simple.
If like my first thing I ever bought was Litecoin. I didn't even buy Bitcoin because I was like, well, Bitcoin's like a couple $1,000s. I'm like,
what if Litecoin goes to a couple $1,000s?
Yeah, but I feel like back
what
then
if Litecoin
people,
goes to 100?
people weren't like gambling on it.
It did.
You know what I mean? Like they weren't gambling on it like that. And now, I mean, obviously, like it's a totally different thing. But then like when people started talking about NFTs, I was like, oh, okay, so it's just like art with crypto. I understand that. Like I get it. You know what I mean? Like there wasn't like a lot of like, I didn't need like a lot of onboarding in the sense of like, what is this? Like I knew very quickly. I was like, cool. It's like natively digital art. Like great. Sounds good. I learned a lot more obviously about like smart contracts, blockchain, all the other things. But I think like when it came to just like the regular, like, okay, this is what it is.
Like sales pitch use case.
Yeah, I like knew what it was. I was like, this is fine. And I think that like for me, I've always been, it's going to sound horrible because I used to work in government, but it's like, I've always been the kind of person where it's like, stay the fuck away from my money. Like that's just how I am. I'm like, stay the fuck away from my money.
Same here.
I was first registered to vote as a libertarian. Just want to put that out there. I've always felt that way. And I just think that like, obviously like when it's used properly, it's good, but it's like, I see the way that like the government uses money. It's like, you haven't passed a full appropriations bill since 2011. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, why the fuck should I have to pay you? You know what I mean? So it's just like, obviously I pay taxes, please IRS, I do pay my taxes. But I just think that like there is like this.
Pay too much in tax.
For real. There's like this narrative of like, you know, stay the fuck away from my money that I really appreciate with the crypto ethos. Like I do like that. And I like the people like you were like, I wanted to get, I remember the day I met you, I was like, how do I order bacon? And you were like, I work on smart contracts. And I was like, that's really fucking cool. You know, it's just like, literally the first thing I said to Andy was just like, what kind of bacon should I get for the house? And he was like, I don't fucking know. That was so funny. Oh
I
my
do
man.
smart contracts.
And then I was like, "What do you do?" And he's like, "Oh, I make smart contracts." I was like, "That's cool."
Well, I had a question for you in all of this, but
Sorry.
So no, I'm curious. Having come up in the politics space and all of that, and working for the Democratic Party, and now having a large amount of your like livelihood kind of be in and around crypto stuff, how has kind of the Democratic Party's like relative distaste for crypto, has it affected your feelings overall? Like, I guess I'm just curious because I'm someone who used to be like very left leaning, and now I just like am kind of just like out of politics.
Well, when did that
total.
happen? Did the shift happen after 2016? Because this will go back to my theory that I was talking about earlier.
I was like never, so I guess I was never like super politically plugged in as far as like I know who I'm following all these different election things and stuff, but like a lot of my like general philosophy on politics was like very, very far left.
Okay. Like
I-
Bernie, were you a Bernie bro?
Yeah.
I was a Bernie bro.
Yeah, I thought Bernie was
I
sick.
think Bernie's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe his wife got fired for some stuff that wasn't great, but it's whatever.
Yeah, they all have something.
Yeah.
Like they're human.
Yeah. I saw him at a gas station in Vermont once. It was funny. But yeah, and then like, or I would say 2016, I was like very shocked and upset that Trump had won. Yeah. And then like kind of over those next 4 years, I was like, you know what? This is kind of all a clown show, and like, I don't really care anymore is kind of my feeling.
That's very, I feel like there's a lot of people who feel that way. Mm-hmm. I don't think that you're like alone in that. I think that like working on a 2018 like midterm cycle was very telling because I met a lot of those people and they were like, this sucks. I think that for me, like, I understand why people in the Democratic Party don't like cryptocurrency. Like, I understand the narrative. I just don't necessarily agree with it. And I think that like specifically Elizabeth Warren is like the worst person to be talking about this because it's like, okay, delete your whole portfolio, sell it all, sell your fucking stock portfolio. Like if you really feel that way, like sell your stocks. I don't think that elected politicians should be able to have a stock portfolio or their immediate family. Yeah. Like the same way that like, I mean, Allie used to work for, what was it, PwC?
She was KPMG.
KPMG. And it's just like, if a big four has to be that specific about like the way that they report things, why the fuck can Elizabeth Warren have stocks?
Yeah.
It's just, to me,
it
doesn't make sense. It's like if you want, and
let them hold the S&P 500.
Right.
Like
S&P 500 is
but
fair.
not individual stocks and like play in that game.
I agree completely. And it's just like that to me is one of the problems. I mean, when I worked on the Hill, I worked in House leadership. So it's like, I worked in the House side. So I never like interacted with Warren. I knew people who worked in her office, but I never like interacted with her all that much. But like, even then it felt like a lot like good for thee, not for me. Like, which I really didn't like. It was just like, I go on these like lavish vacations and have this like amazing house and like do all these things. But
she's worth like what? Almost $70 million, something like that?
Yeah. And it's just, the Senate's a little weirder because I feel like the Senate, I mean, it's like, you know, the House of Lords and the House of Commons, right? Like that did kind of transfer over to the Senate and the House. So that's also part of the reason I worked in the House because I was like, I want to be like talking to the people. I don't want to be like in the Senate. Like it just felt like weird to me. But like part of it for me was just like, I feel like there's just a lot of inconsistencies that happen in the Democratic Party. There always happen. But I think now that like we're on social media, information is getting passed around so easily. Right, correct, truthful information is also getting passed around so easily. I think that it's better for people to talk about like what's actually happening. And I think that these people, should be held to a scrutiny. But my other perspective is they are human. And like, if you could not be in their exact same position with like your current record, whoever you are, universal you, like if you couldn't switch places with them and not have the same smear campaign, then like feel free to talk.
Yeah.
But guaranteed you can't. Yeah. So it's like, that's part of the reason that I get so angry when people are like, Hillary Clinton like did this and that when she was a senator. It's like, yeah, in the fucking 90s when you weren't even a sperm cell. Like, what are you fucking talking about right now? It's just like, you couldn't even, and that's what I like about like Gen Z. They like pull up these like tweets from like 2010. It's like, you were literally in diapers.
Yeah.
I delete my tweets from 2010 because I would have got canceled.
I delete I would have been big time canceled.
I had someone message me in 2021 when Cooper was getting canceled. And they're like, hey, I looked up your tweets. You might want to look at these. And I was like, yeah, you're probably right.
That's nice of them though. They said that. They like
I have a lot of good like luckily like I've built up a lot of goodwill. Like if someone's looking at a tweet from 10 years ago when I was a sophomore.
You know what's funny is I just finished a book. It was talking about like the attention economy.
Humble brag here. Someone can read.
Sorry, Andy. I don't mean to be rude.
Andy only is a smart contract app. Can't read.
Audiobooks. I can do audiobooks. I can't do real books.
I actually physically read this, but I do a lot of audiobooks. So to be fair, I'm an audiobook person.
I'm too ADHD to read real books.
Yeah, I like audiobooks better. I don't know. But I just finished this book, and one of the things she talks about, which I thought was interesting, is it was one of those 2019 books. She's like, yeah, like the far right rhetoric is to pull up old tweets and cancel people. And I'm like, that's fucking funny because I see a lot of people on both sides of the horseshoe doing this. And the horseshoe, I think it's an important thing to note because it's like a horseshoe is the ends are closer together than the middle. And I think that like in political science, the horseshoe theory basically states that the people that are on the far left and the far right are actually more similar than they think they are. And they're furthest away from the people in the middle. And they just won't see it because they see themselves in two different camps, but they are literally in the same place. And it alienates like the average person. But I think that that's what social media is trying to do. It like pulls the horseshoe heads like further together.
Yeah, I think that's like that's a really good way to put it.
Yeah,
it's
not
like,
a spectrum; it's a horseshoe.
Yeah, and that's something that like I guess kind of getting back to like where my political views have changed, where it was like I used to be like down here, and now it's like I don't know, I'm somewhere up here, but I don't really fucking know.
That happens. The older you get, I feel like that's also common because like we're human.
Yeah, and I think there's also like definitely, at least for me, there was a certain level of like naiveness that came with some of my beliefs of like, oh yeah, these things should make sense and should be good, and then you like have life experience, and you're like, I don't know, it's not quite as black and white as it sounded when I was like reading about this on Reddit. It was different. At least for me.
In college, like political science, it's exactly that. It's like, I think one of the things I learned very early on is like, everything sounds very good in a book. Mm-hmm. Everything does not work out very well. Yeah. Like
theory and practice are very different things.
Very different things.
Can we talk about the name Postwook and like the journey of not being sober and then being sober for a long time and then finding joy in things that aren't drugs?
Yeah, I feel like also just side note, I feel like we're gonna have to cut like so much of this political stuff. I mean, I like talking about it with you guys.
I'm fine with it. I've definitely said worse on Spaces.
Also, I don't know.
I don't mind talking political because I feel like our audience is like such not a political audience. They never really hear us talk about it. Okay. And it's like, it's like
maybe we'll like put it at the end so they can deal with it then. But okay, so Postwook. So a wook, I'll start there. A wook is a dirty hippie, and now the festival kids have kind of made wook into an endearing term where it was not. It was not in my day.
It's like named after a Wookiee, like Chewbacca.
Not really, actually. It's more like an Ewok. Is a better way to put it. Like a tiny little like screaming bear. Okay. Like that's a better way to describe it. Like just like fucking insane. Okay. And just like you've no idea what they're about to do. Like that's a wook. Okay. And that was me. I mean that's like part of it. And like I never used that name for it to be endearing. Like it was supposed to be like it'd be like the equivalent of like saying like post bitch. You know what I mean? Like it literally was not supposed to be endearing. But now they've made it endearing, so now people don't really mind it as much, which I think is great. But basically the whole idea is I used to go to music festivals with like a box of wine, a tent, and like 3 pairs of clothes and drugs. That's it. And I would just make do. And like I would just make it fucking work. And I just like that was so just, I don't know, like looking back, I'm just like thinking like there's like experiences like flapping through my head right now. And I'm like, oh gosh. But like that, I just like flew by the seat of my pants and just like constantly would just be in these like almost like endangering situations. And that was just what I enjoyed, right? Because I just really liked drugs. I think that's like the best way to put it. I would just go to music festivals to like have a justified reason to like be high for 3 days straight.
And how often were you going to music festivals?
Every 6 weeks.
Okay. So it was like a build up, let it out, and then a month and a half later.
Yeah.
And depending on what drugs you're using.
From like March. Okay. So the festival season, the way that it works is like it kicks off in March with spring break usually, and then it goes all the way until like October. And then from like October to like February, or maybe like November to February, there's a lot of like shows at like venues. And there's shows at venues year round, but like I mostly went to festivals and went to like shows in the winter. So I would go to a festival from like March to October, like every 6 weeks. If I could. If I couldn't, there would be like some like, I mean, Fish is a good example. Like they'll do like 6 nights in Madison Square Garden, right? And it's like that to me is like the equivalent. It's like another like long standing event. So it might not be like a festival, but it's like the same kind of thing. That is the kind of stuff that I just every 6 weeks, yes, was doing something like that. And it was really fucking fun because I really liked getting high. And I really liked the music. Some of the music that I was listening to then, that I was seeing live then, I still listen to now, and I love it. Like it's some of it really was about the drugs, some of it really is about the music, but I had a lot of fun doing that. And then what was the other part of your question?
And then like, what age did you get to when you were like, I can't keep doing this? So then
21.
Like,
I got sober when I was 21.
21.
And I remember like, it was the summer of 2016, which looking back objectively, good summer, great summer. Like, I mean, not for me, but like just the world was in a good place at that point. Like Drake was on tour, Kanye was on tour. Like it was so much fun. Like good music was coming out. Like I think like for music, it was such a good time. But I remember I was trying to go to this event. I had like $200 my name because I was in the same boat. I like never... I was like, no, I can do this. And I like needed to get to this festival that was in Colorado, and I really wanted to go. And I had tickets, and I really wanted to make it work. And me and my friend were trying to get a Greyhound bus. And I was like, dude, I can't fucking do this.
I've done the Greyhound bus.
Is this from DC?
DC. Trying to get from DC to Broomfield, Colorado.
That's tough.
It's like a multi-day Greyhound
For
trip.
some reason, I didn't want to drive and I couldn't fly because it was too expensive. Like Spirit Airlines was too expensive. Like that's where I was at. And I just remember being like, okay, I can go to this event and Greyhound bus this experience and like sleep in a tent because that's what it was a camping thing. So it's like I would have slept in a tent anyway. Or I can sell these tickets and I can buy cocaine. And I was like, I'm going to buy the cocaine. So I sold the tickets and I bought coke. And I think that like that was like a turning point for me in 2 ways. In a good way, because I realized for the first time that like when you have a whole bunch of like signs that are pointing towards like don't do something, you shouldn't do it. I'd never like listened. I was just like, I'm going to do whatever I want. And because it was like, okay, now I've crossed the threshold of like sacrificing like the music that I claim that I love so much for the drugs. And it was like this moment where I was like, this is not how this is supposed to go for me. I got sober like 2 months later. So it took a little bit to like actually like really fall apart. But once that unwound, it like all unwound. Right. So I think that like for me, like the end was just like a lot of similar shit, just like selling things for drugs. And like lying to people and just like not really being like a good person. Like it's funny, like now I'm like the kind of person where like if I lie about even like the slightest little thing, I like can't fucking do it. Like it makes me so uncomfortable. So it's like knowing that back then that's just like who I was as a person is like so weird. But I remember like even shortly after I got sober, I think I had like 40 or 50 days sober. I went to a festival. It was close by. It was in Maryland. I was in DC. So, and I had a car. So it's just like, I just kind of drove over. It'd be like the equivalent of going to like the Catskills. It's like not far. And I remember I brought Waffle House with me because I really wanted a waffle. And I ate Waffle House, like a waffle from Waffle House, watching Tipper. If you've never heard Tipper, you can pause this right now and go listen to Jess and Mind Hatch, and then come back. But it was so perfect, and I loved it. I actually had fun. And it was this turning moment of like, I do like the music. I am here for this. And some things fell off, like some shows and some events and some people, even some friends and like, just like certain vibes. Like I was like, okay, yeah, this is definitely just the drugs. But then there were other things where I was like, no, I really like this. And I still really do. Actually, one of those artists that I was seeing pretty frequently in like 2016, like went on a 5-year hiatus and just came back. And I was in New York a few months ago and I saw him at like the Brooklyn Mirage and it was amazing. It's like, in the time that he retired, went on hiatus or whatever, like one of my friends passed away, and like we somehow got in touch with the band to like play her favorite song because her parents were there. And it was just like this really cool moment of like her parents are in this like what the fuck are her parents doing? This But they really wanted to go. They wanted to experience it. Like some of us, like we like scraped up some money and got them tickets, you know, and then like it was just like that to me is like what it's about, you know. And it's just like he like did a little shout out even. I was like, this is fucking crazy. Like this is so cool. And like this is the kind of stuff that like I want like in my life, and like it just is a really important and like big part of who I am. So I think like the music influence is definitely there. But I keep some elements of it like in my work, even like maybe less like, you know, like visually, but when it comes to like mechanics and stuff, like I've been doing like scarcity and like limited editions, like before NFTs, like that's how I sold all my prints. It was all limited editions because I took that idea from pins. So in the festival community, people sell pins, like these little enamel pins, and they're all limited edition, and they do these big drops and then they like sell them out. And then you can trade them, kind of like NFTs actually. So it's like they hold value really well. And you can
like, how much would like a typical pin be?
Like up to like $500. So like, it's like not like, it's not cheap.
That's a lot for a pin.
Yeah, it's not cheap. They're like anywhere from like $50 to $500. Like the really big ones and like really well-known artists, like small drops can be like more than that. But like, I'd say like 500 is like the most expensive you're going to find. Usually like 50, 60 is frequent because 320s, right?
Yeah.
So it's like on lot, you can just give someone 320s and walk away. But like, that's how a lot of people would make their money. Like they would literally just get their pin board. They'd go to a festival. They'd walk around with a pin board, and they would just sell pins, and then they'd have money to go to the next festival. And it was just, they're like Wookstocks. That's what I used to call them. And it's so funny because NFTs are kind of the same thing. It's like people metaphorically have their like board and they like flip their NFTs, right? And then they like move on to the next thing.
They go to the event.
Yeah, they flip all their NFTs and go to NFT NYC or whatever it is, right? So it's like, I was using my prints that way. Obviously, like the flippability of a print isn't there, and that was by design. I like didn't want that to like be like a part of it, but like people would buy, I'd put up like 10 prints, they'd sell out, put up 15, sell out, 20, 25, like just constantly what could like keep going up, and people would just buy them. And it was just like, cool, this works, you know? And I tried to like keep that like music element like present. I mean, I still do with like the work that I make, but the mechanics have kind of changed.
Yeah. I mean,
God.
Just being around you for so much, it's like you're not even tempted by anything. Like,
no.
Like
I'm
you
like
are like stone cold, dead
yeah.
sober. Like we've stayed together at a bunch of events now, and you know it's always friends over. There's a whole bunch of everything, and you're just
odds
like,
are she's baking bread.
She's making bread. Like
she's making bread.
It's just awesome because it's like you're this very like down to earth persona to be around. So when we're doing whatever, it's like, all right, like Natasha's holding it down. Like I know she'll be up early. Like the house, the vibe is set from then, and it's nice to be around. So I feel like it's important to share.
I have a really random question actually. Now that Dee said that, and this is, we can totally cut this from the podcast. So Allie and I were talking. So we have steak and chicken for dinner today.
Yeah,
and she made a marinade for the steak, and she was gonna put a Modelo Negro in it, and then it's like a beer.
The beer, yeah.
And then she was like, oh, wait, no, I won't do that because Natasha's coming. And I was like, I have no idea whether or not, because it would cook out. You wouldn't even know that there was alcohol in it.
Yeah.
But I was like, I don't know whether or not she would care about that. And it doesn't matter. We didn't do it. And it really doesn't matter at all. But I'm curious, like, I assume if you had the option, you would say, don't put it in. But I'm sure you've had some sort of like glazes that was cooked with alcohol in it.
Oh, I'm sure. Okay, so I think that it's subjective.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, if I know, I'm gonna decline. If you did it and you didn't tell me, I probably wouldn't care because it's gonna cook out. I'm not gonna notice. But like, I personally try to avoid things like that just because it's like sometimes like, you know, it's like not entirely, but then you also get into like the territory of like rum balls, right? It's like, what do you do with a rum ball, right? It's like, oh shit. So I think that
those are definitely just alcohol.
Yeah, those are alcoholic. Yeah, right. So it's like, I think that what we kind of say with like being sober is it's all about like your intention. Like, and it can go to anything. It's like, if you pick up a clear glass that you think is water and it ends up being vodka, you're like, oh shit, I wouldn't call that a relapse because you're like, you didn't know. You're like, oh, fuck. But like, if you pick up a glass and you want it to be vodka, that's a different story, right? So I think that like, it really just depends on like your intentions. I think that like with that stuff personally, like I don't keep like cooking alcohol in my house or anything. Andrew keeps alcohol in the house and I don't really care. But like, I don't like personally do that. Like there's like this miso recipe that I really like with like fish, but like it calls for like what is it? Sake. And I'm like, I'm just not going to have that. Right. It's like, it doesn't taste the same, but like, I don't really care. Right. But like, I've had like spanakopita, which is like fish or not, it's a cheese. And then they like put like malt liquor on it and like light it on fire. Yeah. And it's just like that. I don't really care because it all burns off. Yeah. So it's like, to me, it's like, it's kind of a gray area, but I try like not to care about it.
Yeah, I think that's probably a healthy way to think about it. Not that I would know, but
no, but I think
intuitively.
I think that's the other thing too. Is just like I do know people who like are, I mean, I'll say it this way, who have alcoholism, and some people don't like to be called alcoholics, or drug addicts. They have a drug addiction. Like I don't know. To me, I don't fucking care, but like other people feel that way. I personally like. Don't like my whole thing is like I want to be able to go anywhere, do anything, and like not feel like I am restricting certain things that I'm doing because there are drugs and alcohol there. And like I need to get myself to a place where like I feel comfortable in that position. And if I don't, I need to like assess that, right? So it's like when I had like 40 days sober, like at that festival, I was like, should I be here? You know, and it's like, but then after a while, it was like, like 6 months later, I went to a festival in Michigan and I didn't even notice people doing drugs. It didn't even I didn't even see it. Where before I would like lock eyes and there'd be like someone like, and it's like, it's like, fuck, okay. Where like, I just didn't even see it. And it was like it had been eliminated. And that was like such a cool feeling. And that's how I feel now. It's like weed and alcohol don't really bother me. It's like, that's not the stuff, but it's like, when I'm like in a room that smells a little bit too much like gasoline, I'm like, oh shit, you know, but I'm not gonna like notice when people are like in the bathroom, like doing coke together. Like to me, that's just like, so like not the like vibe even that I want to be around. That's the other thing is like most of the people I hang out with, like that's not what they're doing. Like I don't give a shit if people are like on mushrooms. If anything, I'm happy because they're talking more. Like
they're on mushrooms watching cops.
Dude, yeah, they're watching oh my god, that was so fucking funny. Like coming into the Airbnb and everyone's just like a fucking like liquid on the couch like watching cops. Like that's the vibe to me. Like that's the vibe that I like just in my everyday life. So it's just like, obviously, like, I'm not going to like be weird about that. I do know people who are sober who are like, I could never. And I'm like, I don't fucking care. Like to me,
I feel mildly bad with like the smoke and stuff. But yeah, I know like
the smoke is the one thing, but I just try to like walk away. It's not a big deal.
That's
and then I guess also curious, like, did your kind of, I know you said you swam for like growing up and everything, but did your kind of like getting really into like weightlifting and all of that come alongside getting sober, or were you always into that?
I actually had to like, so over exercise was a problem for me.
Okay.
Because I think like when people think about like, oh, like you're an alcoholic, like they think like, okay, like you drink alcohol too much. It's like, yes, but I also like ate too much. I like cared about like sex too much. I traveled too much. I spent too much, right? Like I exercised too much. Like I did everything too much.
Just like a lot of excess.
Excess everything. Like I was compulsive about everything that I did. So there are some things that you can't stop doing. Like abstinence-based recovery doesn't work for eating. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't work. That's another problem, right? So it's just like exercise, in my opinion, is not an abstinence-based thing. But I was a compulsive exerciser before I got sober, like to the point where it was like I would cry if I didn't get to the gym. Like I would literally have like a mental breakdown if I did not go to the gym because I wanted some sense of control over my life and I like needed it to be related to like something positive because I knew I was doing so many destructive things. So I think that like my relationship with exercise has actually changed so fucking much since I've become like more adult and like more sober. Like for a long time, exercise for me just looked like walking on the treadmill or like working out with a friend or, you know, doing like a very light, like weightlifting regimen or something like that. Like it was, or going on a hike, like, or doing yoga. It was very like contained to an hour in a class setting because like I knew that if I went too hard, it would just start the cycle all over. And then I got to the point where I was like, okay, like it was right around the time my friend died. And I was talking to her dad and he was like, you know, telling me all these things that she felt about me and the way that he would hear about me. And he was just like, you know, I thought that you were like a superstar based on the way that like she talked about you. Like she loved you. She had so much respect for you. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to become the person that you thought I was. And I like made that promise to myself. And that was like when I was like, okay, I think exercise needs to be like a bigger part of that for me now. Cause like I had like a apartment gym that I went to and everything, but I was like, I need this to be like a real thing for me. So I like dedicated myself to like getting back into it in a healthy way and like checking in and being like, okay, how do I feel? Do I feel okay? Do I feel like I can keep going? Do I feel like I'm like being too much about this? Cause I feel like I got to a point in my like just well-being and like mindfulness where I was like, I can do that. But then it became like, you know, goal focused. And now I have like goals, which is like really cool. But it's like the goals keep me motivated without keeping me like over motivated. Because if I go too hard, I'll injure myself and I can't reach my goals.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's really like, I think that my relationship with exercise actually was like very unhealthy for a long time. Where now it's like, it's not. And that's like really cool. But I'm also 7.5 years sober. Like it took a long fucking time, maybe like 5 years to get there, you know?
Yeah.
So
that's cool.
And when you say goals, are they like, I want to deadlift X amount of pounds, I want to squat X amount of pounds,
So,
or is it?
So altogether, when you have a squat, bench, and a deadlift, the term for that is called like a dot score. So that's like what your like the weight, your 1 rep max for what you can do in that like is. And I want to get to 1,000 pounds.
You want to join the 1,000 pound club?
I'm gonna hit the 1,000 pound club this year.
I had a period of my life where I was in the 1,000 pound club.
That's fucking
But
awesome.
I'm not there anymore.
I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah. I used to lift more like heavy. I don't lift heavy anymore.
Yeah. My plan is like hit the 1,000 pound club, do it in like a powerlifting competition, get it on paper that like I did it, and then just like walk away. And like just from there, like maybe do like kinesthetic workouts and like get really fucking crazy about like what my body can do. Cause that's the biggest thing that's changed for me, like with exercise, is I'm no longer punishing myself for like what I've done. It's like I'm celebrating what my body can do.
Yeah.
You know? So it's like, yeah, like 1,000 pounds is like fucking crazy. And that's like such a celebration, but I don't want to like do that over and over and then like not be able to walk by the time I'm 60.
Yeah.
you know?
That's my thing is like, I've started to get really bad tendonitis in my hand. And I've learned that what triggers it is really heavy barbell exercises.
Yes.
Whether it's like bench press or like squat, even like, because I don't have great shoulder mobility from playing football growing up, like hurt my shoulder a bunch. And so like even when I squat, I can't like get my arms back far enough, so I kind of have to like bend my wrists in a weird way and stuff. And so I can deadlift fine, but like I don't do barbell bench press anymore because it just like triggers my tendonitis. And so I just, you know, I do dumbbells or I do whatever else. But I just like, you know what? It's not worth it.
You should do dead hangs, just literally on a bar.
Yeah.
Just hang, and then it'll like help your grip strength. Because your grip is a bigger problem most of the time than your actual, like, what's it called? Like the actual muscle. Like that's my problem. Is like my grip goes before my muscles do.
Yeah. Yeah. For the most part, mine do as well. It depends on like what I'm doing. I had a period of time where I would always lift anything where it was grip oriented with straps. But then I took a while off of that because I was like, honestly, I'm just like not sure my grip strength is as good as it should be. But now I'm like, I just got these new things that that haven't been delivered yet, but they're like called I think it's called Versa grips. And so it's not like a strap, but it straps around your wrist.
Oh,
again.
is it like the like hook thing?
But it's not a hook. It's just like a leathery flap.
It's on your hand, right?
It goes on your hand if you're doing like a press, but it goes around the other way if you're doing.
I've seen these.
Pull.
Yeah.
But they're supposed to be better than straps. And I like now all that I do is like very like muscle building centric lifting, and so like my grip is very much so the thing that gives out because I'm not doing like 3 reps for strength. I'm doing like 20 reps, like really slow and controlled. And so a lot of times my grip is what gives out, but
I did 3 reps. I did that kind of workout today.
yeah, it's been years since I've done something like that. It's fun.
The tendonitis flare up gives me like mad anxiety when it happens too. Cause it's like my whole livelihood depends on this fucking wrist.
Yeah.
Like if this thing gives out, man.
You got another one, thankfully, but.
But yeah, but you need both. Like I don't. Yeah, it's
my first time that I had it, it hurt so bad that I thought I had broken my thumb, and I was
what?
like, I was like, I don't, because I've broken my thumbs a couple times, Both of them. and so
Is that for football related?
from football and volleyball, yeah. And so like I did like a really weird break where I like chipped off this part of the bone of my thumb, and so it like never totally healed correctly, and so it like isn't that hard to re-break it. And so, but it hurt so bad that I went to the doctor and like got X-rays because I was like, I think I broke my thumb again. And they looked and they were like, look, there's the part of your bone that's chipped off, but like no, it didn't chip off again. And I was like, okay, then what's wrong with my hand? Because like I can't hold a cardboard box because it hurts so bad. And he was like, I don't fucking know. And then I went to another doctor and he was like, oh yeah, you have tendonitis.
Oh, yeah, I had to go to physical therapy for it because I talked about this on another pod, but I broke my arm twice when I was a kid and it fucked up the mobility. And then
Same arm?
yeah, same arm, 7 inches or 7 centimeters away from. First one was a bend, not a full break, and then the second one was a break. But the tendonitis comes from using the barbell because I can't supinate my right arm like fully. And it just created like such a weird mental space for me. It's like my job's on a computer, everything relied on that. I was like, I didn't work out for like a couple years after that.
To be honest, I mean, a good personal trainer should know how to give you like.
Oh, it's a lot of like, don't use a barbell, like use dumbbells.
Yeah.
You do everything neutral grip.
Yeah.
You use the
Adaption.
bands.
Yeah,
a
like,
lot.
There are accessibility, I think, is just like a big thing that should be bigger at the gym, I think, for sure. But it's like being able to like adapt your workout based on like how you're feeling and like what you're doing.
I think it's just like knowledge too of all the different workouts. Like I'm not super knowledgeable of like I was definitely the type of person who's like, all right, I'm gonna watch like this bodybuilder YouTube guy. Oh, he just gave the these 3 workout. I'm gonna go do this, and then like as I'm doing like overhead press or benching or any of those, I'm just like, this hurts. Like this doesn't work. And
I feel like that's so much of working out is just like knowing your body and like knowing
like what works for you. It's like, oh, like I should have been doing a lot more of the bands, and like I should be doing a lot more like just body weight stuff. Like I don't have to, but like yoga and stuff, like horrible tendonitis flares up. Like when I do certain poses, like you need to have the blocks to do anything, and I don't know. It's turned me off like taking care of myself, and honestly, it's probably just me making an excuse.
Yeah, I mean, I think like a good personal trainer can always help with that stuff too. Because I'm a big fan of like hiring people to help you, just because like I think especially when it comes to like injuries and different things like that's what they're for.
You're also like paying so much money that like you have to care about yourself. It's not like you're like God Planet Fitness membership, don't really care if you don't show up. Yeah. It's like,
well, and it's not like you're paying someone to like, fucking walk your dog. You're paying someone to help you take care of your literal body. That like, if you want to live a long, healthy, happy life, like you're better off if it's in good shape.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so it's like, in my opinion, I think there's very few things that you can spend money on that are a better investment than like taking care of yourself physically.
Damn straight. Can't agree more to that.
that's been your motto, I feel like, for a while.
Yeah, I mean, I think that like I really worked on my mental health, and then I got to a point where I was like, I need my physical health to be where my mental health is.
Do you swim at all anymore?
Yeah.
Like, do you go to the gym to like swim and like
There's a pool near my house that I go to.
Oh, nice.
It's nice. I like it. I don't go as often maybe as I like could, but I think that for me, like swimming is like more of a cardiovascular activity and not like the sport that I'm doing the way that it used to be. But whenever I'm like, oh, I don't need to do stamina, I just like go and swim again. And it's like, oh wait, you don't need to do what? you don't need what? So it's like I get motivated to have better stamina because of swimming.
Yeah.
And then I'm better in the gym, and I'm like, this is awesome.
So what's your current workout split? What do you like? If you had nothing crazy going on that's like stopping you from going to the gym for a day or something, what's your like weekly routine?
I don't do like Mondays blank. I usually do like a 5 to 6 day split. So it's like I'll usually do like quad focused legs, a push day, cardio and abs, a pull day, glute focused legs, and then I'll try to go on like a walk or something. But it's usually like a 5 day split like that. 5 days is like typical of me going to the gym, because my whole thing is like, if I go to the gym 7 days a week, I'm not working hard enough. Like I should have rest days. You know what I mean? Like, and when I have a rest day, I'm grateful for it. Like,
and rest days are good for you.
Oh, they're great for you. It's like, if I feel like, oh, I don't need a rest day, I can keep going. It's like, no. I should do something more challenging when I'm actually at the gym then. Because it's like, if I don't feel like, oh God, today's rest day, thank God, then like I'm probably like not pushing myself as hard, and that 1,000-pound club is just not going to happen. But yeah, I mean, like there are days where I don't work out just because I'm like, I am too tired. Like yesterday I was like, I could go to the gym right now. And then I was like, I am tired. I am not going to the gym right now. And that felt fine. You know, I didn't feel like upset. I was just like, okay, works for me. You know.
But then you went to the gym this morning.
Yeah. And I'm going to go to the gym tomorrow.
And you said you go for 2 hours when you're there?
No, not usually. I was there for like an hour and a half today.
Okay.
That was long. And that's because I was like, I don't have anything else to do. I might as well.
Yeah, might as well fuck around for a while.
Yeah, but it's just like, usually it's like an hour 15 tops. If I'm like powerlifting, it's like, it can be like 3 hours.
Yeah, because you need the time between like sets and everything.
But usually like a regular workout is like an hour and a hour.
That's the other thing that I do not miss about lifting really heavy is like doing fucking heavy deadlifts takes forever. Like you got to, like if you're trying to rep out like 415 or something, you got to load up the bar every time between like warm-up sets. You're doing like 4 warm-up sets and then you're resting for like 5 minutes between sets. Yeah. You're just like chilling there on your phone and like all of a sudden you're 45 minutes into your workout and you've done one exercise. And you also are exhausted already.
That was me today. I deadlifted today and I was just like, God damn. It was like 30 minutes into my workout and I was like, I've done one exercise. This is annoying. I didn't even go that heavy because I didn't have belt or straps or anything. So I only went up to like 300, but I was just like, oh my God, like I'm still just like, this is taking so long.
Is the progress so linear and like map outable? Like you'll join the 1,000 club by this year. Like you can see like from your progress that it is basically, if you keep up what you're doing, then it's a no-brainer.
I think like just based on where I'm at. Yeah. Like it seems, like it's
Do you
like
have a general guess as to what you're at right now? Nice.
So I'm close. Yeah. Yeah, that's why. It's like I'm
you need a good day and you got it. Like
yeah,
if you wake up feeling really chipper one day and you're like, oh, I got this, you're there.
Do you take any pre-workout or
no,
like?
I don't drink caffeine.
Yeah, I was gonna say because you're sober. It's like you're not doing like
a lot of sober people drink caffeine. A lot of people. Yeah. I just don't because I had like a heart flutter at one point. And I was like, ooh, I don't like the way that feels. And I was like, I don't.
Yeah, so it's
I also like, I mean, I did like so many stimulants when I was like using that it's like, my heart is probably like not happy with me anyway. So it's like, I probably shouldn't be like continuing to like pump blood into it all the time with caffeine.
Yeah. I'm like, I take pre-workout sometimes. Like when I went to the gym this morning, I was a little tired. I took pre-workout, but I try not to unless I really feel like I need it. And honestly, I feel like for the most part, maybe I'm just different with this. Like, I feel like people kind of use pre-workout as like a bit of a crutch because they like don't like working out that hard actually.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know, for me, once I get to the gym, if I'm like, I'm going to lift this really heavy weight or I'm going to like, you know, make myself feel like shit. Like, I don't need a little caffeine to do that. It's like, I'm either going to do it or I'm going to waste my time for an hour and I don't want to waste my time for an hour.
To be honest, if the crutch gets them in the door, that's all I care about.
Yeah.
Like if someone is just like at the gym and they're just like happy to be at the gym, I'm like, that to me means so much because it's just
I'm a big fan of placebo effects.
Let's be fucking strong. Like that's all I care about. It's like let as a society, let's be active and let's like prove McDonald's wrong. That like whatever. Let's just like make the world a better, healthier place. That's all I fucking care about. You know what I mean?
Do you?
I know.
Oh wow, I love it.
My question's like starting to get off topic.
Oh no, I was just gonna ask like, what advice would you have for people who don't work out? Like, how are you trying to, because earlier you're talking about like you see problems in the world, you're trying to help fix it. Like, do you think because I think it's honestly like inspirational when you like post the videos and you're like, hey, like I do all this shit, but, like also I can like, you know, crush your head with these plates that I'm lifting up. Like, is that one of the reasons that you post to like try to inspire others? Because I feel like the comments, at least on Twitter, are like really positive. Like, oh shit, like I don't know. Maybe I perceive it differently, but I feel like you're like trying to help do your part of like make the world more fit.
Yeah, I think that's definitely part of it. It's funny, today I was at the gym and I was like doing like the adductor machine. So I was like closing my legs and opening them. And it was like well past like watermelon, you know, territory. And this guy was just like staring at me and I was just like,
that is, I have to say,
it was fucking creepy. I mean, whatever. I'm not like one of those girls that's gonna go up to me like, stop fucking staring at me. But I just like, I noticed. I was like, okay, like that's a little weird. I think for me, I post the videos to motivate myself, to motivate others, and just kind of like you know, if anyone else out there is interested in these things, I want to know because I want to befriend them. I think that's like a big part of it. And I want people to see that you don't have to be a specific type. Like I thought that artists couldn't be athletic for a really long time. I was like, no, if I'm an artist, then I really can't, you know, like be this like athlete. I have to, you know, like be like a little art school person. And it's like, no, like you really fucking don't. Like you can, like me, I mean, like again, like Waldo, like one of my like good friends, like we will go to the gym and be talking about art in between our sets. Like he's a professional artist, I'm a professional artist, and like we're lifting like very heavy weight, and then we are like talking about art in between. And it's like very fulfilling. It's a very fulfilling thing to do. But it's just like, to me, like I used to think like, oh, I'm not an artist because I can't draw. Oh, I'm not an artist because I'm not like this. Oh, I'm not an artist because I'm not like that. So it's like I posted to be like, yeah, I am, and yes, and, you know, trying to give people like the yes and kind of like belief out there that so, like you can do it all.
Talking about like some of your favorite artists, which artists inspire you the most?
Jen Stark.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%. She's a huge inspo. Jen Stark is a huge one. I really like, oh my gosh, Bridget Riley is a huge inspiration of mine.
We saw her work together at the LACMA, right?
Yes, love her work so much. Sebastian Wall, he's like a collage artist. He's in New York, actually. Allison Gray, Alex Gray too, but mostly Allison personally.
Did you meet them in your Wook days or?
No, I watched them paint. I was sober at this point, and I watched them paint, and I was like a moth. I was just like, oh my God. Like it was weird. It was like really powerful in a way. Who else? I really like, her name is Dan Lamb. She makes these like drippy, like kind of like sculptural things that are really fun. Trying to think of like specific artists that like have like knocked me back at least. I mean, I really admire the way that like Killer Acid does everything. I don't think I've ever like said that publicly. I like his business model a lot. I mean, I like his work too, but it's just like,
no, I think like
his work doesn't inspire me as much as like his business model does.
Yeah, he crushes it on the, again, like not that his work isn't good, but the way that he's kind of curated his brand and everything.
I'm just not an illustrator. So for me, I look at it, I'm like, oh, this is cool, but it's not like, oh shit, you know, but
I think it's like, it sets a, you know, different standard for the type of artist and the different income streams you can have. It's like, you don't need to have really expensive one-on-one art only that sells. Like you can have clothes, you can partner with, you know, Santa Cruz skateboards, you can do Polaroid collabs, you can put your art on any piece of clothing you want and just make it available for anybody. Like I think it's good to see all these different models. Like not everyone can be like Joe Pease.
Right, and not everyone should want to be Joe Pease.
No,
right? And that's the thing, is like, I think Joe Pease is good at being Joe Pease. You know what I mean? But I think that like when it comes to like I was hanging out with Brian Brigman last night and we were talking about this. It's like being in the middle, right? And it's like I've always been a person in the middle. Like I'm technically like a zodiac cusp, and like I've always felt like, you know, I was robbing liquor stores and I was swimming, and it's like it's just like I've always been in the middle of things, right? And I just feel like personally, like I am in the middle when it comes to like being like this crypto fine artist and being like a commercial artist. Like I feel like I kind of straddle both sides, and I like that. Like I don't want to be one or the other. It's another yes and, you know. And I think that like I personally want people to see that like you can do it all, you know. And I think I think Killer Acid, Jen, both of them do like really good jobs of that. That's why Jen's just like a huge inspiration, just like as an artist. I'm like,
she's definitely like in the middle.
100%. Yeah, no, she's great.
Yeah, she's still, I'm sure it's happening, I just haven't noticed. But like whenever we are traveling or something, we'll see her, like her work at an airport or something, and it's always fun to be like, I know her. Mm-hmm. Like that's cool.
Yeah, her work is everywhere, and I like love that too. And I remember like there was one point, it was well before the space, I was like, who is this person? She's so good at this. And then like I looked on her website and I like looked at her like big like, you know, CV, and I was like, oh, okay, she's like 10 years older than me. I can like calm down. Like I'm like, wow, like she's really everywhere. And it's like this has happened over time. Yeah. And that's something I have to remind myself of a lot, is like these things happen over time. They don't just happen all at once, you know?
Yeah. Some of the conversations we had this weekend with Redbeard and some of the artists or Aniko were about like artists catching big breaks at different points in their career. And like we were talking, and I don't remember the exact specifics, but there were artists who were like discovered in their late 40s because of one thing they did. Like maybe it was a picture of the Obamas right before the election, or maybe it was like something else. And there's this idea, I think, like in our space where like everybody's so young, it skews so young, and everything's so fast that like you need to blow up and have this like impressive resume in like 3 years. And it's like impossible to do that because it's just only 3 years of time. And so many things, you don't know when they'll happen, but you know, if you like do the work, you put yourself in the position for it, like it can happen. And I think like talking to Jake Fried comes to mind, where it was just like, dude I'm going to stock grocery store shelves and alter my entire artistic process. And then I'm going to go like, you know, volunteer at the museum because I like the art, and then like really consistently doing all this stuff. And then the next thing you know, it's like, he's almost 40, he's a professor, all this stuff.
Jake Fried?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. The episode on the pod was like really...
That was a really good one.
Mind-bending, because it was like... And it's similar with Jen, where like, you know, she's around the same age as Jake. Maybe like... Yeah. So she's worked so long to get to that point, but it's like... The Web3 or our space, like, I feel like doesn't see those big pictures. It's just like this confined, like, maybe it's 2017 to now, but most of the time it's like 2021 to now, which is only good.
I think a big part of that too is that, and I think this is not even just unique to the NFT space, but just like crypto in general, is like I feel like crypto Twitter really loves to like idolize and put on a pedestal people who did like get rich quick, or get lucky on something, or like hit big on something. And like, you don't hear the same like stories, like the way that people talk about like, and this is not NFTs, but like Robert Leshner compared to like other people like Frank from DGods. Like Robert Leshner spent years and years building like products and doing these things and learning about finance, and then eventually builds Compound and does all these things and does very well for himself. And like, yeah, everyone's like, oh yeah, Robert's like a Chad, good for him. But like, he's not the people who everyone's like, wow, he's the best. I wonder what his opinion is on these things. Cause like, he's the kind of guy who you should be asking his opinion because he's put in the work and the hours. And they instead are like, what does the guy who posts a lot on Twitter who like accidentally made $10 million have to say?
Yeah. I have a theory on that. And I think that it's like people love to ride the shitcoin wave.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of people in crypto, because shitcoins are so embedded in the culture, they ride artists like shitcoins. Mm-hmm. They want to watch the artist who came from relatively, maybe not actually, but relatively nothing.
Yeah.
Become this well-esteemed artist, when in reality, it's like a lot of artists who came into the crypto space in 2021, mostly, like, were coming from all different places.
Yeah.
And I think like that wasn't always the way, because I remember in like early 2021, like the artists that were like really popping, like Thank You X, Jason, or not Jason, oh my gosh, JN Silva, like Dave Krugman, all had careers before this. They were like career artists.
Yeah.
So like, I don't really know why that changed, because I think that like an artist having a career before crypto is a good thing. Because the way that I see it is like, cause like, okay, before NFTs, a lot of artists were on Instagram and the currency was not money, it was likes. So like, if your engagement was really high, people thought you were a really awesome artist. And I think that crypto changed that to, if your sales are really high, then people think you're a really awesome artist.
Yeah.
And I think that that's fine. The one thing that I think that is kind of frustrating about that is like it doesn't take into account how that artist got there, right? Because I remember like being early in crypto and being like, why are all these artists like popping off? Like, who are these people? And then I started looking into who they were. They were creative directors. They like worked like full-time like 3D jobs, you know, they like were doing these like crazy things. They were 10 years older than me. They had so much going on, and it was like, yes, this makes sense. Where now it's like, it kind of feels like everyone's just trying to find the like newcomer to support all the way to the top. And it's like, well, what about the artists who do have a career outside of this? Because to me, it's such a green flag, because like, at least what I saw with the Instagram artists that were like, the likes were the currency. When the likes went away, they stopped making art.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you have never, like, and that's the thing, because these artists, they never made work that wasn't fueled by the social currency. So it's like, when the sales go away, where are the artists?
Yeah.
That's the fear that I'm afraid that like this whole like riding the shitcoin wave for an artist thing is going to lead to.
Yeah.
Because I'm afraid that it's going to make artists be like, well, I'm not making any sales, so why would I keep making art? And it's like, no. That's not how art works. You make art regardless. Like, that's not this. And like, that's on them. Like, that's a lesson they're going to have to learn. But like, I think that as an artist, like, coming at it from a place of like nothing is so much better than coming at it from a place of like instant gratification in some way, shape, or form, whether it's likes, money, whatever it is, you know?
I think a big part of that too is that like the crypto space in general really, I think, idolizes and looks up to the like people who made it kind of quickly out of nowhere. And I think like, because a lot of people, going back to what I was saying earlier, like a lot of just your average user in crypto is like, honestly, probably like kind of lazy and just wants to get rich quick. And like, you know, the story of like, oh, how'd you do it? You know, I worked really hard for 10 years and I got a big break and it all worked out, but like I put in a lot of work. It's like, okay, no thanks. Next one. How did you do it? And it's like, oh, I became an anonymous artist and then a bunch of people bought my stuff and they all made a ton of money and I did too. And it's like, oh, cool. Okay, that's interesting to me because it like fits better with their personal narrative of like what they're trying to get out of crypto.
And some people
That's very
too,
illuminating. Thank you for saying that.
and I think some people too, like they might think the person who came out of nowhere and made a bunch of money really quickly, like they didn't see what they did before that. Like I've had that with people who ask me personally, like, how did you make a bunch of money? And it was like, well, I got lucky, but like I lost all my money multiple times and like wanted to kill myself and like went some really dark places. And like, I think with some of the, you know, an artist, like I'll just use Xcop because he's like the most popular example, but like the dude was putting out art 10 years before he was minting.
Right.
Like he had a backlog.
He was huge on Tumblr.
Yeah, so there was that like social currency. Like people look at people and like, oh, he came out of nowhere and sold all his art. It's like the dude has been giving out like free assets to people and like building a community for
my
like.
My favorite with that is like, do the math on how many days his work has been. You think about the days and do the math.
It wasn't 5,000 days.
Yeah, it's like, hold on, wait, how?
That's like well over 10 years.
Yeah.
Wait.
It's so funny.
Did people invent Bitcoin?
No, I like found out about Beeple because of those free assets. Because a lot of my friends that were DJs used those assets as their visuals in their shows. That's how I knew who Beeple was. And it's just so funny because I think like, yeah, I mean, I look at artists who like maybe they did start making art like relatively around the time NFTs popped off, and like that's just going to be a hard lesson at some point. Because I think like one of the things I've learned as an artist is like there are ebbs and flows. There are ebbs and flows. Like there are times where everything is going really well. You have a ton of commercial work. You have a ton of sales happening. Engagement's really good. Everyone loves you. And then there's times where you kind of feel like the like leftover sock at the end of like the laundry bin, right? And you're like, oh God, this sucks. But like it's not necessarily permanent. I think that's the other thing is like it's really easy. It's kind of like the bear and the bull market. It's super easy in the bear market to think like this is never going to end, and then it's super easy to think in the bull market this is never going to end. But it's like they both end, right? They're cycles on purpose. And I think that like engagement's kind of the same thing, and like, you know, sales and everything else, like it's kind of the same. It's like everything happens cyclically, and like you just have to keep showing up and doing your best, and like then things are going to happen. And at least in my perspective, because like I didn't know really what like a bear market felt like, right? But like what I did know was like, again, in like Web 2, like, okay, you're getting no fucking engagement, no one cares, no leads, no print sales, like this sucks, right? Like those moments, that's like the Web 2 bear market, right? And it happens for everyone at different times. But like what I learned through that is like that is the perfect opportunity to make cooler, better art because no one's fucking paying attention, so you might as well try new shit. And that's like the best time to be off of social media because no one's paying attention and neither should you. So go focus on your craft and go work on the things that actually matter. And like to me, like that has actually gotten me like out of those periods because it's like, oh, go fucking figure. Like I ended up doing things better than I was doing them before, focusing less on the things I can't control. And then I end up coming around and realizing that these cycles are going to move with or without me. So I might as well just like not dwell on them while they're happening. Like it all works out, you know?
I think it's an important perspective to have because, I mean, 6 months ago, I was in a vastly different headspace. And some of it was price and whatnot. But, like, you, when it's the darkest and you're like, oh, fuck, it's never going to get better. It's, like, normally a good indicator that, like, you're
Things are going to get better.
probably close to the bottom. It's, like, not a for sure thing, but it's good to, like, you know, put one foot in front of another and just, like, go forward and do something. Like you said, people are going to see what, you know, we've had a slow year in 2023. 2024 looks to be picking up, at least. I'll just use the bat soup triangle, inverted triangle analogy.
Love that.
Where we're at the very top of the triangle where liquidity is. I think if you want to argue some of it has flown to generative, it would be like some of these recent squiggles and punk sweeps and like.
I'd say generative. I'd say we're
some of the
I'd say we're like 45% into the generative. We're not really there yet, but we're kind of getting.
Yeah, and I did just see a good I think Orkin had an auction yesterday go for like 10.6 on super rare.
I saw
that. You know, I'm curious to see how that will continue to flow because I think it's a slow process. But I think we're going to see the people who really did different shit over the last year. Like you said, like they just built up their skills, learned new things, did something different. This is like the time to put it out. We're already starting to see some of the, like Lucretia's current Sotheby's ordinal is doing super well. We saw Rip Cash with some of the cursed inscriptions and ordinals. We've seen, I just saw like Rupe Renisto said he's doing a 1,000-piece Solana.
I saw that.
Which
like
5,000. Sorry, 5,000.
Yeah, 5,000.
5,000.
I was shocked when I saw that it was 5,000.
That's a lot.
0.02 Sol. I think it's pretty fair price.
Yeah.
0.02 Sol. Yeah, that's like.
He's trying to make $100,000, but like I feel like 0.02 Sol 5,000 like seems fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you just said like blindly 0.02 Sol, I'm like, that's basically free, I think.
Right? like that's like a free mint. Like in Solana land. So like I think like that'll be interesting. But we're starting to see like, hey, if you have something like that you've been working on, starting to test the market with it has been something I've noticed over the last like 2 to 4 weeks, really.
Yeah.
It's been a big shift.
And I feel like this is the first time we've seen like genuine excitement and demand around like new PFP projects again and stuff, which I think is like a pretty good indicator that everything else will start to get more attention, where it's like, when you get to the point where there's like really hyped, hard to get into PFP launches, it means that there's like a good amount of attention back in.
There's
in
a lot of
general
latent
NFT space.
liquidity looking to do stuff.
And
so,
like, it's funny to me thinking about the NFT stuff and like how I think it's definitely obviously been a slower 2023 for NFTs than like the rest of crypto, and like seeing the people who think that it's just like over for NFTs and that was like a fad of the previous cycle.
They're never coming
like,
back.
So funny because
it makes me so mad that there are people who like genuinely work in crypto and see the only use case that like the only really good use case we've had for crypto other than like money payment,
decentralized finance,
and they're like,
it's speculation.
No, this is dead, it's over. That was a one-time thing. It's like it's the best use case we found so far.
And we're still all like, I'm holding a bunch I'm really excited about. Like I talk to people every day who collect shit they're really excited about. Like these core users aren't just like, oh, this is fucking over. We even have these conversations where like the people we talk to who are building, they're really excited about what they're building.
Yeah.
The people we talk to who are creating, they're still really excited about what they're creating. The people who talk to about collecting, they're still loving everything they're collecting. And it's like, okay, like it's not that bad. Like just because the fucking Rolling Stone is dancing on graves again and a couple people
I think a big part of it, like you were saying the other day, is like when the markets are down, you just don't have as much money to buy that kind of stuff. Like, you don't have that luxury.
Well, it's like the average person too. It's like when you think about like the average human, like what do people like to do? I mean, we're still like monkeys on a rock. It's like we literally love to collect things, and it's like, what do people collect when like things are down? Like bookmarks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What do they collect when things are up? Shoes.
Yeah.
Clothes, fur, whatever.
Limited edition trading cards.
Limited edition, yeah, like stuff that they have that has no real value, but it's like humans collect things. That's just what we do. Like outside of like NFTs, I'm sure like everyone has collected something in their life, right?
You guys should see my grandpa's stamp collection.
Oh, you should see
That
my
shit goes
dad's stamp
crazy.
collection.
Well, you didn't get them into rare sats. Like this is the rare sat market. If you like stamps,
My grandfather does not comprehend. He is 93 years old.
he's not
My dad needs to get into this shit because he would love rare sats.
Oh,
He
yeah.
would
The
love
rare
my
set,
grandpa.
you'd be like,
He's
this
a
is
stamp guy.
Dad, this is a
my
hitman
dad like
sat.
My dad has like at least like 6 figures tied into his stamp collection. That's like liquid that he could sell right now. Like he's into it. Like it's crazy.
I mean, everything. There's like a collecting bubble, like Legos recently.
Oh, yeah.
Miles Turner, I didn't realize for the Pacers, is like a big Lego nerd, and somehow Instagram started feeding me Lego stuff because I watched like 3 videos he did on Legos, and now I have way too much knowledge about like Lego sets that sell for over $10,000.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, that's like a 5 ETH Lego set. Like, I'm like, damn, like.
That's
Should
crazy.
I be trading Legos?
No, but that's what I'm saying. Like people collect things and like at various points in like their expendable income, like they're going to collect things that are more or less valuable. And I just think like obviously like when things are going poorly, like no one's going to be collecting stuff.
Well, it's like no one over the last, 2 years while Rolex sales have been down and like the price has gone down 50% is like, oh, that's it for the watch market.
Right.
So much for watches. Those
Like,
were
of
good while they
course not.
lasted.
Also, the other thing about crypto that I love so much is the fact that like these cycles are pretty like they're pretty like notable. Like you can trace them. Like you can tell like when things are going to happen, where like in other cycles it's not as predictable. So the fact that like it's so fucking predictable here is like such a good thing, and people still freak out. It's like, what are you doing? Just stop freaking out.
Maybe this time is different, dude.
They're overinvested.
Yeah, they're overinvested. That's really what it is.
I mean, yes. But when you're bullish on something and you think you have so much conviction on it, shouldn't you be overinvested on it? Like,
yeah.
I mean, for someone who, outside of a few things that I own, my entire net worth is in crypto, I'm also overinvested. But I've been through enough where I feel I'm comfortable enough with the ebbs and flows.
Yeah. You just get used to it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
what was your other question?
What was your question?
Oh, I was just gonna say you recently got engaged. Congratulations.
Thank you.
How has that whole part of life been? Like, are you guys wedding planning?
Yes. We are wedding planning.
Do you have a date set up and everything, or?
I have a date in mind. It's a Sunday that's also a full moon because it's very important that I get married on a full moon.
What's the full moon symbolize?
Well, if you want to know. So the new moon is all about like beginnings. It's all about like kind of laying down the seeds and starting a new process, where the full moon is meant to be like this process of like harvest, right? And like abundance. And it's like meant to be like the things that you have sowed or the things that you have reaped are now being sowed. Like you're now able to like kind of come full circle and have this like full abundance moment. At least that's the way that I have always interpreted it, at least in the sense of like why the full moon is important for this date.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things of full moon. But yeah, for that at least, it's like because it's supposed to be like the pinnacle of the time that like everything is happening. I mean, we're probably going to get married in Wisconsin, so the moon's not even going to come out until like 11 p.m. So it's like, I don't think we're going to get any photos with the moon, which is fine. Maybe, just maybe, like, you know, like when the moon like comes up, like when the sun's still out and it's all big, like if that happens the day we get married, I will flip out because then I'll be able to like make my work in like, it'll be like my work out there in real life. Like, oh my God, that'd be so cool. But
that's super exciting. Do you think your wedding will be this year, next year?
2025.
Nice.
Yeah.
Take a long fucking time to plan, because we did like 2.5 years to plan it.
Oh, really? Okay.
Well, partly because we got engaged during COVID, and so it was like venues were booked for forever. But like, it was just really nice to not have it be like a thing that was stressful, and we just like slowly planned everything. And then, you know, the month before our wedding, everyone's like, "You guys must be so stressed," and we were like, honestly, no, like we're fine. And like, I think the biggest stressor was like our parents telling us like, "You have to be so stressed right now," and we're like, no, like, we're okay.
That's how I feel. Like we're thinking like September of 2025. So like plenty of time. Yeah. And like, I mean, like I'm looking at like dress designers now, and like we're touring the venue next month because I want to lock in the date.
Oh yeah, get that shit locked down.
That's the thing, is I want to lock in the date as soon as we can, just so like we can do everything else. But that's kind of how I feel. It's like if I'm gonna get the dress this year, I'm gonna get the venue this year. I'm making the invitations. Like, what is really going to stress me out? The thing I'm most stressed out about is the fact that like we have to figure out where to go on our honeymoon, and I want to go on my honeymoon immediately after the wedding. Like,
I would highly recommend that too.
That's what my dad told me.
We still haven't been on our honeymoon.
What? We can do a joint honeymoon. You want to go to Japan?
That's why you have to go right away.
To go.
Because otherwise you won't go on your honeymoon.
Because we got married when we didn't have money, so there was like no idea of like.
We're thinking about going to Japan if you guys want to like link up. Like, just come on our honeymoon with us.
If you want, I got connected with someone through just, you know, random Twitter friend who his wife does travel planning, and she planned our entire honeymoon, and it was fucking amazing. I have recommended her to any of our friends who travel. Now I just use her. Like if we're going to Miami for the weekend, we will call her up and be like, "Can you book us a hotel in Miami? Here's how much you want to spend a night." And she is like a godsend.
Does
Wow,
she
yeah.
like have an itinerary too at all? Like,
Oh,
if,
yeah.
if you go
If you
someplace you
want.
don't know. And
Yeah,
you're
so like she'll basically do as much or as little as you want.
Wow.
And so the way that it works, so this is what's crazy is if you just like use her to book your like flights and hotels, I basically just give her my credit card and she just does everything. So one, you get like upgrades all the time because they have crazy status through like their company. And so like you're basically booking as if you had the most elite status that you possibly could. So you're like almost always getting free room upgrades, like comps at hotels and all of that. But then also it is free. And so you don't have to pay her anything.
What?
You only have to pay her if you have her plan itineraries for a day.
Which is fair.
And so it's $75 for any day that you ever plan stuff. But she could be like,
It's nothing.
could you plan us 4 days? And it would be $300.
That's
for
not
her to
a big
book.
deal.
It could be a 3-month trip. And if she plans 3 days, it's $300.
Yeah.
And
we
so
wanna-
she like booked us car services. Well, because we went to Napa and so we were drinking, we were doing
Yeah.
stuff. And so she booked us car services when we need it, got all of our reservations for us for dinners. If we wanted to cancel a reservation, we would just text her and be like, "Hey, we're not feeling it. We're not going to do this anymore." It was amazing.
You went to Napa for your honeymoon?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, Andrew really wants to go to Japan.
That'd be really sick.
So I think that's...
You guys totally should.
Yeah, that's...
Have you guys been before?
I've never been to Japan. I
It's
really want to
really
go to like I really want to go to like Bali.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that like the sacrifice that we're both going to make is like I want to spend some time at the beach in Japan, which I think is totally valid and fair.
Yeah.
So it's just like, whatever. I feel like it'll be fine.
Nice. That's going to be sick.
Yeah, I'm excited.
definitely go right after.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what my dad was like. Literally, they were like boarding their flight like not even 48 hours later. And I'm like, that's definitely
Yeah,
what I
we
want.
took 1 day off. So we like wedding was Saturday, Sunday did nothing, Monday flew. And I think it was nice
That's
to have
kind
a
of
day
nice, yeah.
to like just decompress, just like sit on our couch.
Talk about what happened.
Yeah, we're probably because I mean, if we're gonna be in Wisconsin, it would only make sense for us to fly to California than to fly to Japan. So it's
Yeah.
like obviously we're gonna be home for like a day or two. But yeah, no, that's definitely what I want to do. And I think like it is. So it's funny. We haven't. This will come out after we publicly announce it. But we haven't publicly said anything yet
Yeah,
because we're taking our engagement photos in like a week and a half.
that's exciting.
And like then we're gonna announce it. And if you know the artist Briscoe Park, he's
Yes.
taking our engagement
Oh,
photos.
they're gonna be good.
It's crazy. They're gonna be like weird, like black and white, like dark, like pit of night. Like we have like
Moody
we got on
and-
a call and like
Sounds very Mr. Postwook vibes. Like
literally
like
he
he's-
it was his suggestion. He was like, "Can we
Okay.
hire Briscoe?" And I was like, "I guess, yeah." And like we're gonna like go to this like church and like the photo I think that we're gonna like post is like the way I see it is like it's a church and Andrew's gonna be at like the top of the stairs and he'll be like leading me up to the staircase and I'm gonna be like I'm not in like a wedding dress but I'm in like a long like white dress and it's gonna be like very obvious but we're not doing any like photos of like our hands together and like the ring like
Oh,
that's
yeah.
not the vibe for us so it's just like
his and hers.
yeah no we're not doing any of that which is fine I love that people do it but it's not for us so yeah we haven't said anything publicly and to be honest I think like part of that is because like I like my personal life to kind of be like personal and like
Yeah.
people know Andrew anyway, so it's not like weird.
It's not like you're secretly engaged.
No, like everyone knows
Yeah.
we're together. It's not so it's just I mean, even with like kids, like I've like toyed with the idea of like if I have them, like I'm not gonna like tell anyone.
Yeah.
You know
I think
what I mean?
people overshare their life on like crypto Twitter too much.
I
You
mean,
gotta at least put an emoji over the kid's face.
you know how I feel about I'm into the rare one.
Oh my
you,
God.
You both know how I feel about that one.
Yeah. No, please. PSA, everyone, stop saying that you got a rare NFT mint when you have a baby.
It's just
stupid.
it's a baby. It's like way, in my opinion, I hate to say this, but like it's way more valuable than any fucking token you're ever gonna mint.
Yeah.
It's like don't equate these two things.
You're never
Like,
gonna floor it.
You're
It'll-
never gonna you're never gonna floor it. You can't flip it. It's a soul-bound token. Like at that point, it's not even really like an NFT. Like stop. You know what I mean? Like
People just gotta make a joke.
Yeah. Get one other hobby that isn't NFTs, if that's what you want to say.
Yeah.
What else are you looking forward to in 2024 that you can share when this airs?
Solana drop. So 3 editions. So all of the like the self-portraiture stuff that I've been like shooting, it's gonna be like 3 of those pieces. So it's like a triptych.
Are these your first self-portraits?
Yeah, that I'm going to be releasing.
Yeah,
that's why I'm doing it on Solana because I'm like I want to do it differently. I want something different on this
I
different
haven't
chain.
seen self-portrait.
Yeah, and like so the first one is titled "I Was Born in the Trees" because I grew up basically in a forest. So it's like me and a whole bunch of like, it's kind of cool. It's like me and like, I took like a whole bunch of like long exposure images of myself like in this. So we found like a clearing where there's like a whole bunch of trees. And then like in the center, like I'm sitting there and I'm like very opaque. And then like all around the trees, I like ran around and like poked my head out and I'm like looking at me again. So it's just like supposed to be like my ancestors kind of like, oh, okay, like you're here now. And then the second one is I found myself in the water. And that is like when I lived like in the Midwest and really like kind of came into myself a little bit and like really realized like who I was as a person. So for that one, I went to Wisconsin and like jumped and like literally the water was like 50 degrees. It was so fucking cold. And it's like me kind of like coming out of like the water. And then the third one is my heart's in the desert. And obviously because I live in the desert. And I'm like on top of this like big rock and I'm just kind of like standing there. And that's going to come out in like early February.
Oh, nice.
And then, yeah, pretty soon. And then I'm doing a tarot deck this year, which will be really fun.
Oh, that's cool.
I don't know like how related that's going to be to like anything else, but that I think it's going to be fun. I've been like,
let me know when you do that.
Do you want a deck?
Well, the same sister who we bought a calendar for would be very into a tarot deck.
Can I be friends with this sister?
She's really cool.
Is she your sister?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Yeah, she lives in Nashville.
Oh, I love Nashville. That's awesome. And then the other thing, I was literally just talking to Brian about this yesterday, and like I really want to make it happen because the more I think about it, the cooler I think it could be. Is like do like a like ordinals drop with like recursion and like have like think like a window frame or like a door frame and have that be like the parent object, but then have like all of like the different scenes that could be inside of the door frame be like the child objects. So it like it's all like linked back, but like you're not running into like the horrible file size issues that you would with like a typical like ordinal. I need to like figure that out a little bit more, but I think that that's one of the things I want to do. And then I'm hoping to do like a big like addition. What's the word I'm looking for? Like dynamic piece at some point here. I want to do like 4 like big drops next year. Like I'll do other things, but I want to like really focus on. I was talking to Brian and he was like, yeah, I do like 12. And I'm like, that feels awesome.
Brian is like, yeah, he's always
scheming something up. He's got something in the pipeline.
He's very well networked too.
Yeah.
He's like, oh yeah, there's like this new platform coming up. I'm like, oh, I didn't even hear them.
Yeah. So I feel like for me, if I could do like the Solana drop, what the fuck is it? Tarot card, the
Ordinal.
dynamic piece, and and then like the ordinal. I feel like that for me would be like fine.
Yeah, the parent-child provenance is interesting. I think I was telling you Rip Cash,
Yeah.
Lucresh, a few others have made like threads on how they do it, where like at the top it's the parent Rip Cash. It's like, he's the artist, but then as it goes down, there's like the collection, and then under that collection is, the 64. And then like for the Lucresh's, it was like he has this 101, but it's coming from like the monster parent down to the 101, and then under the 101 are 5 bitters editions. Yeah,
so this would be like the one piece I have right now that like the doorway is based on would be the parent, and then from there like the children.
Is there a way to like have it read the art from the parent and layer it?
That's what I'm gonna figure out
on the,
because that's kind of what
without
I want.
Using the data in the child's, I guess, is like what I'm thinking, because like you use the frame and then layer it over, but I have no idea how it works.
I have like a call with someone next week to like kind of chat about it, which like I'm really excited to do because I really want to figure out like what I can do like with the technology, because I'm not just trying to be like, here's my work on another chain, because to me that's not really fun. It's like I wanted to like really use the tech that's like being offered. Yeah. And what I've kind of found is like a lot of my ideas are bigger than the tech being offered, so I have to wait. But
well, it's like that, or like you have to almost make your work into like some type of either like high fidelity pixel art or something that is not like
what you want to be doing.
Yeah, and then I think you could. It's a whole different like dynamic of trying to get it in that file size.
Yeah,
but there
I
are new
already.
ways coming out. Like the people who talk about it, I'm just like, I think I understand it, but like I don't really know what is the data limit, because like you compress it and then.
Yeah, I did one already, and it was shrunk, but it wasn't like that bad. You know
It's
what I
not
mean? So
that
it's like if one of my pieces can do it, I can do the recursion. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
I think like that's just the kind of stuff that I like want to be doing this year, like more so than just like, here's my work, you know? Because like to me, that's like, okay, cool.
Yeah, and along the way, maybe like a couple really, unique one-on-one ideas come out. Put those out along the way, but you don't feel like you're like, gotta have a one-on-one out by this day that's this price, because then it just creates like ton of stress probably, or like ton of pressure.
Yeah, and then I have a pair of skis coming out this year. Which will be really fun. Like skis, like literal skis. Yeah, I they licensed the pieces for me, so it's not my ski.
Yeah,
but those are coming out this year, and then there's going to be another Target notebook for the academic year of 2024 to 2025, so that'll be out in like July-ish.
This is a good year, and then there might be some exciting stuff you can't talk about.
Yeah, there is exciting stuff I cannot talk about.
Yeah, well. There always is. I mean, that's to be.
I know. I'm trying to think like, what can I talk about? But that's the stuff I can't.
Yeah, and people will keep their eyes out, and the exciting stuff will be evident when it hits.
Yes, you will.
You'll know it when you see it.
You will know when you see it. So yeah.
And then with that, I think wrap it up.
Cool. You
want to give any shout outs to anybody before we close it?
Okay, all the people I talked about in here. So like 360, Moody Darkroom, Brian Brinkman, didn't talk about her, Lachetta anyway. Jisoo, loved her. Oh my God, I don't know. Those are like the artists that were like mentioned, like they're amazing. So I would definitely like recommend. I mean, all my inspirations as well, but like, all those people just.
Shout out Mr. Postwook.
Yeah, and Mr. Postwook, I mean, the glue, literally. So.
Yeah, thank you.
Good guy.
It's been a vibe.
Yeah.